Hello, horror fans, and welcome back to the Script to Screen podcast. We're doing another bonus episode today. So I'm here as always with Lee, and we have a very special guest with us today, don't we, Lee?
We absolutely do indeed.
We absolutely do indeed. So, Janine, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, first of all. My name is Janine, and I go under the name of Graeae Horror on every social platform you can imagine. I am a lifelong horror fan, bit of a cinephile in that genre, and independent film reviewer, mostly in the independent film space. But yeah, currently covering a majority of film festivals and also curating my own first film festival this coming September.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me. And hi, and thank you.
So we met Janine at the Screams by the Sea Festival in Bournemouth, didn't we?
Yes, but you were doing your live podcast, and it was really good fun. So much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for turning up.
No, it was really wonderful.
Ah, bless you. Well, it was a great festival, wasn't it? And we had a great time, and it was lovely to meet you and obviously sort of talk. And we thought it would, we had to have you on the podcast because you got such passion for the genre. You're so sort of knowledgeable and able to kind of speak, extemporaneously about horror in such a sort of compelling way that we thought we had to have you on. And what do we think we do this time, Lee? We're doing something slightly different, aren't we? So where are we going?
Yeah, doing something a little bit different this time. So what we're going to do this time is we've each had a good think, and we've each picked out 5 of our favorite hidden horror gems. So these are horror movies that you don't see covered all that much, but are still really, really cracking. We've tried to go for stuff that's a little bit more obscure, a little bit less well known, and hopefully you'll find something in there that you may not have seen or heard of that you'll be able to check out and add to your list of favorites.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see what you guys came up with. And as I said, sort of rolling your eyes too much
Mine
at
are
the
a bit
things that...
wild, I have to say. I
Well,
had to
that's
bring
all
myself in a little bit.
Nothing wrong with that. The wilder, the better, I think. So yeah, we've each picked out 5 films, haven't we, that we sort of consider to be hidden horror gems. And we're going to talk about those films a little bit. Hopefully, maybe give you some steers on what to watch next, possibly. But so I take it, I mean, mine are in no particular order. I don't know about you two. Have you sort of...
No, mine neither. It's just literally just 5.
Just 5.
5 films, not ranked in any particular order of greatness.
Right, fantastic.
And
so we
same
can...
for me.
Same for you, Janine. Fantastic. So we can just dive in. And who wants to go first? Anyone sort of keen to go first with their first hidden horror gem, or shall I jump in, or what should we do?
You jump in, man. You jump in. Yep. You
okay. Well,
set the standard for the rest of us.
All right then. Well, so the first, I had a bit of a theme with mine, actually, guys. I don't know whether we were sort of, apart from them just being hidden horror gems, for some reason, I'm not entirely sure why, decided to go down the road of kind of sort of British horror hidden gems.
Okay.
And they can be, either sort of filmed in England or produced in the UK, or have some sort of UK financing, or obviously UK filmmakers, actors, that sort of thing. But they're primarily sort of British horror films. Some of them are a little bit odd, which I thought was wonderful. But the first one is a fairly sort of traditional horror comedy, really. And it's a film called The Cottage. Have either of you two seen The Cottage?
I have not seen The Cottage. No, I haven't seen that one.
Janine?
Definitely have, but it has been some time. I watch several features a day, so you're going to have to refresh my memory, but I feel a synopsis coming in any moment.
There's a little synopsis there. So The Cottage was made in 2008. As I say, it's a horror comedy. It's written and directed by Paul Andrew Williams. And the basic kind of plot is that 2 hapless brothers kidnap a gangster's daughter and hide out in a remote countryside cottage, only to discover a far deadlier threat lurking nearby. As criminal incompetence collides with brutal rural horror, their botched scheme spirals into chaos, forcing them to confront violence far beyond anything they planned or imagined. So it's a great setup. So this is a film. It's sort of 3 main kind of stars. Andy Serkis, obviously, sort of Lord of the Rings fame. It's Reece Shearsmith, I think his name is. He's from The League of Gentlemen. Did either of you watch The League of Gentlemen when it was on?
I'm not a fan of the League of Gentlemen.
Oh,
I must confess. I thought it was awful.
Lee.
Royce and Vasey would be very unimpressed with you
sorry.
there, Lee, I'm afraid.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
I tried watching it a couple of times, but it was just
not to your taste. What was it?
Not
was
to
it
my taste at
too
all.
humorous? Was it not serious enough, or was it?
I just thought it wasn't funny. I just thought it was just awful. But
okay,
well,
fair enough.
I don't find a lot of things funny, so maybe I'm just a miserable bastard. I don't know.
It's quite an acquired taste of dark humor, to be fair. It's not your Office. It's something quite onto itself.
Yeah, it is quite. This is quite unique. I found it wonderful and very funny. But different strokes for different folks, Lee. That's fine.
Absolutely.
And the third kind of star, if you like, is Jennifer Ellison. And I'm not sure what soap she came out of, but I think it's possibly
She was,
Brookside,
I think,
is it?
Brookside. She's the Scouser.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah.
She's the
blonde hair or natural blonde hair, I couldn't tell.
The little blonde with a really big forehead. Is that the one?
I'm glad you said forehead. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Bless her. She's got a pride to prominent accent. Yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember her being everywhere at quite some time.
So I hadn't seen this one before, we started to do this. Actually, I had been aware of it for quite a while, but hadn't got around to watching it for some reason or another. And I thought this was really fun. I thought it was a great little film. It's got this kind of it's really much, it's a horror comedy, right? And it's kind of the dynamic between these two brothers is really fun. Serkis plays the kind of, the more sort of gangsterish kind of, dark underworld kind of brother who's instigated this kind of kidnapping, and his and Shearsmith plays his sort of brother who's much more kind of a meek fellow and isn't really sure what he's doing there and is obviously no good at this at all. And all sorts of sort of hijinks start to happen when the kidnapping starts to go wrong. But there's this wonderful turn in the middle of the film, and I don't sort of really want to spoil it too much, but it does sort of turn into something slightly different midway through. And certainly the final act is them sort of trying to survive, basically. And they kind of have to come together to try and do this in a way. But it was a really fun kind of film, really sort of well made. There's a lot of sort of traditional horror tropes in there, but it is very funny. I thought it was really good, and it's sort of set in the UK. It's obviously British filmmaker and British actors, really really good fun. Does that ring any bells, Janine? Now that I've sort of gone through it a little bit more. Or?
Certainly does. Now you mentioned the casting as well. It gave me an air of a British Tucker and Dale versus Evil, perhaps not to that extreme, but in terms of the way that it's one perspective, and then, as you say, it kind of narratively just flips on its head, and then all of a sudden they're in a struggle for survival when actually they were the antagonists starting off. Although, be it a bumbling kind of ghost face, they're that kind of killers or robbers that aren't actually intended to be that way. That's not in their nature. It's quite a watch, I have to say, but it's definitely a kind of one that I wouldn't revisit. But it's fun.
Right. Is that because you didn't enjoy it particularly, or because why wouldn't you revisit it? Too many films to watch, or?
I think it just takes quite a lot to have watchability, like rewatchability for me.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and horror comedies really just either strike the nerves so well, or they kind of wildly miss. Like, as I mentioned before, Tucker and Dale versus Evil is my kind of horror comedy go-to. It's that classic, and you can watch these guys kind of bumble their way through life, as it were, endless amounts of time. But I think once you know the strokes and the way, the kind of surprises that are coming with these kind of films, you kind of, it takes a lot again to take you out of it to come back to revisit. Unless, as you say, like this is 2008.
Yep.
Maybe. Yeah. So this has been some time, almost 20 years.
Mm.
shockingly. So maybe it is
Oh
due a
God.
rewatch. Maybe you'll prove me wrong here, Will. Maybe I should rewatch it.
Well,
See, we're aging ourselves now. How depressing is that?
I know. As soon as you said like 2008 was nearly 20 years ago, I was like, no, no, no.
Yeah,
I realized that you're absolutely
yeah.
right, and I
getting
feel
on
like
that
an
way,
old
isn't it?
man.
I mean, there's some.
That's
I
it.
thought,
People have had teenagers who've gone to college in that time and university, so that's depressing.
yeah,
Yep,
bonkers.
yep. I'm one
Bonkers.
of them as well, which is this makes me feel even older.
No, but there's some great sort of funny kind of gore in this, some really great practical effects. And it sort of goes, once things start to hit the fan, it does go a little bit sort of harder than I think the
Yeah.
initial kind of setup would lead you to believe. So there might be something in there for you, Lee. There might be
Oh, it
some
sounds pretty good. I
nastiness
think
for you
I'll
to.
check it out. That whole kind of narrative flip thing, I do like that.
Mm.
That I do quite like that kind of plot device. So I may well check that one out. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll add it
it's a
to
fun
my
watch. Like
I'll
Janine
add it to
says, you
my
probably
long
won't go back
list.
to it, but
Yeah.
it is a it is a fun watch, and it's got this kind of cool setup. It's sort of a single location primarily,
Hmm.
and all the action pretty much takes place in this cottage.
Yeah.
But definitely worth a watch. There's some interesting twists and turns in there, which I thought, well, they tickled me anyway. I enjoyed them,
Brilliant.
but not that hardcore, Lee.
Okay. No, that's cool.
Not
Different strokes for different folks, as we say.
absolutely. So that was my first one. So that's The Cottage from
Okay.
2008.
Nice. Nice. I will definitely check that out at some point.
Okay.
So my first one is a film from 2009 called The Collector, which is written and directed by a guy called Marcus Dunstan. And I first came across The Collector when I was just scrolling through Amazon. I think it was Amazon, and Amazon has such a large selection of horror movies, but like 90% of them are just awful, usually in a good way. But and then me and my son happened to watch this one, and we were just like, this is bloody good. This is really good. So let me give you the quick breakdown of the plot. So a desperate ex-con breaks into a wealthy family's home to steal a valuable gem, only to find the house is rigged with deadly traps by a sadistic intruder. Trapped inside with the family, he must outwit a meticulous killer, transforming from criminal to reluctant protector in a brutal, claustrophobic fight for survival. And so this is kind of basically like a Saw movie if Jigsaw broke into your house to do the work there, and he's a lot more improvisational. But
It's
the really
funny you
cool,
mentioned it was funny you mentioned Saw because I believe the original screenplay and script was actually sold as a prequel to Saw.
absolutely right. Yeah, well, that's absolutely
Yeah.
right. It was originally a Saw prequel entitled The Midnight Man, and
Mm,
then it got obviously like rejigged into its own thing. And there was a sequel as well called The Collected, which
mm,
is also really good. And there's been like talk of a threequel for a long time. It's been in development hell for about 10 years, but circa around 2024, Marcus Dunstan said that the wheels are turning, everything is in place, and a new movie is being made.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so the reason I picked this movie, one thing I really like about this movie is that the protagonist and the antagonist are fairly evenly matched. They're both very intelligent and they're both very smart and resilient. So I mean, the collector is a little bit tougher, in a physical fight than the protagonist, whose name is Arkin. But all through the film, throughout the first two-thirds of the film, there's this kind of cat and mouse game where Arkin has broken into this house to steal something, and the collector has broken into this house to basically torture the family inside. And he's called the collector because he always takes his favorite sort of victim with him. So Arkin kind of knows this family because he spent some time working on their house because they're upgrading their house. So they know him, and he kind of knows them. And he doesn't want to rob them, but his wife is basically in massive debt, and these debt collectors are coming for her like the next day if he doesn't get all this money. So he has to go back in and break into their house. But basically, there's a little girl sort of hiding in the house, and he spends most of the movie trying to find this little girl so he can get her out safely. All the while, like the mum, the dad, and the older sister are just falling victim to the collector's traps all around the house. but yeah, it's very as Gene said, it's very Saw. It's very Saw inspired. It's got like a air of Seven to it in the way it's shot. The director uses color palettes quite interestingly. So a lot of scenes are just kind of pasted with just certain colors, which I thought was quite interesting.
Mm.
And it's definitely the timing of this coming out was really poignant as well with that whole, I hate the phrase, but that torture porn kind of era.
Yes,
It
yeah,
speaks to that. But it also plays really well with another big release around the same time of The Strangers. It's got that home
yes,
invasion element, and
yes,
it's really cool that it plays between the
mm,
Saw torture porn and then The Strangers, because there's nothing scarier than someone just breaking in. And the classic line of that is,
yeah,
why did you do it? Well, because you were home. And that for
yeah,
me is like that fear that you can't shake. And that's what I really liked about this one as well, is that kind of, he knows the space, he knows the
mm,
family, and what do you do in that situation? He knows the
yeah,
layout of that home as well. Oh my
yeah,
God, that's
yeah,
terrifying.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. That's a really good comparison. Like the Strangers and Saw, if like the Strangers and Saw had a baby, then you
Mm,
would pretty much have the Collector. Um,
yeah.
and The Mask is also really good. The Mask is just this kind of almost like it's hard to describe it. It's like this twisted kind of sack head mask that he wears.
And it's
And
all laced at the back as well.
yeah, yeah, it's
I
kind
think
of
the poster is like him with leather gloves on, just kind of lacing it up as you can see the
yes,
house in the background. You're kind of like,
yeah,
oh, you
yeah.
know what's coming. Well, you
And I
don't.
don't, but I don't know if he wears contacts as well, but the way that they use the camera lighting on the camera, it makes his
Mm,
his pupils like reflect, kind of like a cat's, like an animal's do. So
Mm.
whenever you
yeah.
sort of see him in the shadows, his eyes just kind of reflect the light in a really cool way.
Mm,
Um, but there are some really good traps in there, and some really good cat and mouse play, or as Phil Parker would say, spider and the fly kind of
yeah.
uh, kind of setup. But it is quite gruesome. It is quite gory. It doesn't hold back. But yeah, it's a really good film. The sequel is really good, and hopefully the third installment will get made, because I mean I think this is a franchise that deserves to be a lot bigger than it is. And it kind of
Absolutely.
sucks that it's been just stagnant for such a long time. But I'm hoping that now, it might sort of get kickstarted and might get the popularity it deserves. So my first pick goes to The Collector.
And just to
Nice.
say, if anyone is new to that film, there is also a post-credit scene, because that was also a big thing. So if you're new to
Yes.
The Collector and you haven't seen it, just skip on by all the names. We know that they're fabulous. We know they've worked on a great film, but get to that post-credit scene, because it's a nice little nod and you don't want to miss it.
There we
Absolutely.
go. Good stuff. Nicely. Good stuff. Haven't
Thank
heard of
you.
that. Haven't seen it. Maybe we'll cover it on the pod some
Might be
point.
a bit gruesome for yourself, but if you
Yeah,
can
it
get past that, I would definitely
sounds a bit
definitely
rough.
recommend it. And
Yeah.
there is a dog fatality though. So
Oh, for fuck's
Oh,
sake.
no. Yeah, I forgot
Unbelievable,
about
isn't it?
that.
but there's a cat
We should
fatality
have
as
a dog
well.
warning.
So that balances it
Yeah, that,
out.
that doesn't balance it out, Lee. It's just more horrendous.
Oh, why do people do that to dogs? Honestly, it's just a cheap thrill, like a jump scare. I can't leave them alone. And cats,
I don't
cats
understand.
getting
I
it.
don't understand why
Honestly,
horror hates dogs so much. It's
I
truly
don't know.
distressing.
I never noticed it really until we started this podcast, and pretty much every film we covered for about 6 episodes straight had some kind of canine fatality in it, and poor Will's
I'd
just
say,
getting really sick
I'd
of
say
it.
like of the 30 episodes or whatever we've done of films, probably a good 25 of them have like some sort of dog death, which is awful.
It's so bad. I can't even watch anything that just has that old cliche at the beginning, that they used to have a like a precursor at the beginning of films saying mild animal peril. And those
Oh
three
yeah.
Mm.
words were a trigger for me. I was like, absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Turn
Nope.
No,
off.
thank you. I won't watch The Good Boy for exactly that. Not The Good Boy. That's a different film completely. Good Boy with the dog that's, we know he survives, but I can't even watch him in peril. No, thank you. I'm
He
good.
doesn't. He's not really in that much peril. I'll be honest with you. It's
Yeah,
usually his
but I
owner
don't.
that's in the peril. So he
Fine.
you never really feel he's in danger. I don't think.
Mm,
But it was quite
well,
a good film. It was quite a
I
good
think I
film.
built it up maybe bigger than in my head then, but yeah, no,
Have you
it's still
seen Have you
on the
seen
watch
Bad
list for
Moon?
me. Yes,
I love that film. That's such a good film.
I mean, it took me about 18 months to see A Quiet Place day one because they obviously got the cat in an alien invasion. And then you
Yeah.
just think, no, and no matter how many people tell you the ending, I'm like, do I trust this person enough to really want to see this film and see a cat potentially die? I don't know. Not sure about that one. I have seen it though, and it's joyous. It's probably my favourite of the franchise. But there we are. Great. So I'm assuming it's my first pick, no pressure.
Yeah.
So the first film I've actually chosen is probably my favorite in the horror genre, and it's not straight horror. It is Happiness of the Katakuri's, which is one that I keep talking about forever. And it's from 2001, directed by Takeshi Miike, who is obviously a well-renowned director. And basically, it follows a struggling family who open a rural guest house hoping for a fresh start, but every visitor mysteriously dies. Determined to maintain appearances, they secretly dispose of bodies while descending into surreal musical chaos. This film blends horror, comedy, and absurdity, and their desperate optimism clashes with mounting death, creating a bizarre, grotesque family saga. This film was on my radar as part of, I think it was originally the Tartan Asia releases here in the UK, around the time that you get them with the magazine and they give you the DVD. I got Itchy the Killer and things the same way.
Yeah.
And it was very much something I was not expecting. At that time, J-horror was really on a rise and having a real surgence, and especially imported horror. And a lot of it was very brutal, or the supernatural ghost element. To have something that I personally would describe as a Japanese Evil Dead meets The Sound of Music was completely unexpected. It's visceral in its moments, and yet there are, as the synopsis relays, there are outbursts of song and musical numbers. There, without spoiling it, there are scenes in here where there is quite gruesome depictions of suicide. And I remember there's one moment in particular, not to spoil it too much, where the family are knocking on the door. They don't get a response from a hotel guest. And they decide, actually, after 2 days of trying to get hold of this guest, they're going to break into the room. And the father figure, the patriarch, breaks in the door. And all of a sudden, everything you know about this film completely changes. The lighting and the direction changes. You have effectively a well-lit hallway that opens into a spotlight, almost like a stage production. Everything else is dark, and there's just one beam of light flooding onto the body of this deceased guest. And then their reaction turns into a Broadway number. You have gasps aplenty. They all strike a pose. And in typical Japanese fashion, everything is highly exaggerated. It's all... and all of these things to a heightened, wonderful, outlandish score, and it's spinning camera work and bright lights, and you feel like you're taking on an audible and visual journey through this film. And of course, it wouldn't be Takeshi Miike if there wasn't even more absurdity. Like, that's not weird enough. There is some really cool, almost stop motion style animation sequences that make you feel like you're watching the Magic Roundabout in your peak experimentation era. And it's just, there's nothing about this film I don't enjoy.
Sounds
without
absolutely bonkers.
ruining it for people. Yeah, it's a really hard one to describe. And if you ever get a moment and you feel like you want to watch something that's upbeat with those horror elements, this is the film for you. And for goodness sake, don't watch the dubbed version because it's atrocious.
Never watched
As
it.
it should be intended, with subtitles, please. And and you know, even if you're not sure, because musical numbers aren't for me either, the trailer gives you enough absurdity without ruining everything. It's definitely one to be putting on everyone's watch list where possible. Have you guys seen this? Or
I haven't. I mean, I'm sort of.
so.
No, I mean,
I
I'm aware of Mike's work. I mean, I've sort of, obviously, I always approach Mike with a bit of trepidation. Like he's just so fucking disturbing. Like some of his movies, and even like, obviously, like I saw Audition, and that sort of just weirded me out. And
Mm,
Itchy the Killer, I thought was like gruesome, but it's gruesome in a comic book kind of way. It's not sort of, I don't know, can't take it too seriously.
yeah.
Have you
yeah.
ever watched 13 Assassins?
Yes.
Yeah, like so I went into
Yeah.
that thinking, oh great, samurai movie, this is going to be cool.
Mm,
Like literally the last hour to sort of 45 minutes to an hour of that film is just an absolute like bloodbath, which just like after about 40 minutes of it, I looked across to my buddy Glenn. I was like, oh man, this is kind of making me feel a bit nauseous now. It is
yeah.
absolutely relentless. So, but this is interesting. Like this sounds like tonally, like it's a bit of a maybe a slight sort of departure from him, but you can definitely see, I think, in his films that there's this slightly absurdist,
Mm,
slightly comic sort of vibe sometimes, right? That it sort of
definitely.
seeps in a dark way. So I think I'll definitely watch this one. This one sounds really interesting to me.
So it's really interesting that you mention Audition because this film came out 2 years after Audition, and
Right.
as you say, it feels like a real tonal shift. There's
Mm,
always been that air of absurdity throughout a lot of the Japanese filmmaking, especially with Takeshi Miike's work. And Sami, even in Audition, has those moments where she is very deadpan in her delivery, but
yeah.
there is obviously that moment. There's a little glimmer in her eye where she's just being a bit mischievous.
A little
Even when she's
twinkle.
got that infamous cheese wire moment, you
Yeah.
can see her little head's bopping with it.
Yeah.
She's having a blast.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you know that he is there. He's putting the pieces here to build something comedic for
Yeah.
us. But then he went completely left field and went, I'm just going to throw my balls to the wall and you can have this. And it is just so very different to anything I personally was expecting. I'm a fan of everything he does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is one film that anyone asks me in a top five or a film recommendation that nobody has seen. This is top of my list.
I think like with
Absolutely.
Mike,
It's
like
wild.
the great thing about him is he always makes you feel something.
Yes.
Like there's no film that you watch of his that you're just like, nah, it's kind of, vanilla, like, got
Yeah.
nothing for it. You
Yeah.
always feel something, like whether that's repulsed or sort of darkly amused or, whatever it is, it's kind of, he definitely, or tension, like he's really good at tension, I think,
Mm.
BK. So yeah, he always makes you feel something. Have you seen this, Lee?
And
I'm not 100% sure. I have vague recollections of watching a really sort of like mental Japanese movie back when I was in my teens. And I can kind of remember a few scenes from it, but I don't know if it was this movie or a different movie. And if I sort of like just mention a couple of scenes,
mm,
and you can let me know if it is this movie or a different movie. But there's one with this woman who just has like can't stop lactating, and she just lactates everywhere. And then there's another one with this guy who is shagging this dead woman and he gets stuck and he has to send his wife running off to get some kind of like lubricant to unstick them.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, I know.
I
It was a mental Japanese movie, but I don't know if it was the same one or not.
I don't think it is.
No.
I don't
So
know.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
recall that. I'm afraid.
That was a
Yeah.
different film, Lee. That was a
Okay.
different film.
That might be something from a personal collection. No.
No, I'm gonna have to
No,
find out what that film's called now. That's,
yeah, I wonder if it's something else. But there is
definitely
to
is,
the
yeah.
point earlier. There were yeah. To the point earlier, there are several generations in this family. There is also a dog, because no family is complete without a dog. So we're keeping the theme of pets in horror. It seems like
Yeah.
an underlying theme for this.
Excellent.
But
Pets
yeah,
in
it's
Peril.
yeah, Pets in Peril. I
Yeah.
don't think they are in peril. It has been a few years since I've watched it, to be honest. So the hands are up on that front. But I don't remember the dog being in any peril. There's certainly one with somebody getting squashed by a sumo wrestler. That's probably as perilous as it gets, but not for the family, thankfully. That's quite interesting.
Well, a good one for Mike completists. I think this one. I'll definitely. Is this out on somewhere to get easily, like DVD,
It's
Blu-ray?
definitely been released through Arrow in the
Okay,
UK
cool.
here, so
Yeah,
easily
yeah.
available.
Arrow's such a
definitely.
great
I'm sure
label.
there's a 4K. I'm sure there's a 4K edition somewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
fantastic.
yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, brilliant stuff. So, well, my next one is going to be what should I do? I could go for several of these. I think I'm going to go with the Curse of the Demon is my next one. But it has a different name, so it might be found under the Night of the Demon. Now, this is from 1957, so a slightly older film. And this one, I was sort of I was looking around for sort of an older British horror film, and this one caught my interest because of the director. This is directed by Jacques Tourneur. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he
No.
is really a legend of the sort of the genre. So he made some wonderful films, including Cat People. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
I Walk with a Zombie was one of his. So
Yep, heard of
these are
that
sort
one.
of older films, in the sort of the horror genre. But yeah, I mean, he's sort of a prolific kind of director, and really sort of a lot of the sort of lighting tropes. He's kind of got that German expressionist kind of feel, and he's really a master of this. It's written by Charles Bennett, Hal Chester, and M.R. James, and this is set in the UK. It starts with this wonderful kind of black and white photography of Stonehenge. And the story is basically a skeptical psychologist investigates a satanic cult accused of summoning a deadly demon, dismissing superstition until he becomes marked for death. As rationality erodes under mounting supernatural evidence, he must confront the possibility of real occult forces before a terrifying curse claims him in a chilling battle between belief and denial. And this one is, I really enjoyed it. I don't know how do you two feel about sort of slightly older films or, black and white movies, horror movies, that sort of thing?
Ah, that's all good with me, mate. I'll
You
watch
enjoy it? What
anything.
about you, Janine? Are you sort of,
Definitely. Yeah, especially if it comes to British horror as well. I'm a big I grew up on Hammer, so
oh,
that's kind of my
brilliant.
forte. But yeah, I haven't actually seen this one, so it's actually one to go on my watch
That's
list.
pretty good. I
My ever
enjoyed this
excited
one.
watch list.
I mean, look, it's got that sort of, tonal quality that you expect from, a 50s horror movie, right? It's nothing
Mm.
particularly gory. And the demon effects are sort of quite something to behold. But there's some there's some really what I kind of enjoyed about this one is it's kind of almost like a slightly fish out of water thing. You've got the sort of protagonist is this kind of skeptical psychologist is played by Dana Andrews. And he sort of comes in as this kind of American sort of science kind of skeptic fellow. And he's sort of surrounded by these sort of slightly bizarre kind of English characters. And one of them is kind of running this effectively this kind of cult. And it's kind of old books and it's curses and it's kind of conjuring demons from these old books and all of this sort of stuff, runes and all this sort of stuff going on. But this was really, really charming, I thought. I mean, it's so well sort of photographed and there's some great old kind of effects. And you've got this kind of skeptic wandering around amongst these kind of oddball British kind of, weirdos. And it's just really, really delightful, man. I kind of really, really enjoyed it. I mean, I found it on YouTube, which is so it's easy to find out there.
Yeah.
But tonally, I think it probably won't be for everyone because it's not in any way kind of gory or particularly horrific. But it's just I just love these old movies. I mean, you can really kind of see, I bang on to Lee about this all the time, Janine, but you can really kind of see the craft in these older films, because you can't just move the camera wherever you want to move it. There's sort of big, heavy, bulky things, and they're just so well kind of put together. And this one is kind of interesting as well because I think you sort of see this guy start to come round, and be convinced that there's this kind of demon and this curse, and he's sort of his rational science brain starts to kind of he can't deny what he's seeing. So it was really, really charming, loads of fun. If you're interested in kind of Jacques Tourneur's movies, I'd highly recommend that you watch this one. And Dana Andrews is great in it as well. He's really good. And it's got a wonderful, wonderful cast. So yeah, highly recommend this one. This one was really, really fun.
This is the one with the really big kind of cool looking demon at the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Big
Yeah,
demon,
I know
like
that one.
big claws.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots of smoke. Yeah,
it
I've seen
is.
that one before.
It's truly, truly funny. But yeah,
I was
really
just going to
good.
say, I was just going to say, I'm definitely going to add it to my watch list, but also just looking at the poster right now as you're describing it, he looks insane. That monster, that creature at the
Mm.
end.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
definitely a big signal to yes for me. So I'll be going onto the YouTube over this weekend. I'll have to
Uh,
let you know my thoughts on it.
it's a lot of fun. There's this one of the characters in there is just so fantastic. He's sort of the kind of the cult leader, and I've seen him before, and I can't think of his name, but he's really good. He's just a sort of weird kind of cult leader sort of character, and he's got this relationship with his mum, and like his mum's really nice, and or sort of you're never quite sure, but she turns out to be quite nice, and yeah, she's just sort of slightly unsure what to make of her son's kind of crazy ways, but yeah, I mean, this was a real gem. I thought it's older, so not for everyone's tastes, but for people who want to go back and just see, the kind of 50s horror, it's a different beast, and it's worth checking out, I think, because you can see, where a lot of the things that you see in horror these days kind of do sort of link back to these older movies. So yeah, yeah, that's my next one. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Again, add that to my ever lengthening list of movies I need to watch.
I think you might watch this one, Lee, and sort of send me a rude message afterwards somehow. I don't know why.
Should I just watch the last 5 minutes?
No, I think you
Oh,
have to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have to see the whole thing. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was lots of fun.
I'm quite excited
Awesome.
to have a bit of a palate cleanser against some of the features that I'm having to watch at the moment. So
Yeah,
it'll be quite nice to watch something that's tonally different and set in a different era that isn't relying on all of the modern day tropes as well.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that would be quite nice. A nice sit and relax and just let see where the story takes us, kind of thing.
Let it wash over you. Enjoy it for
Yeah.
what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, I'm
And
open to it. I'm excited to check that
it's
out.
it's a
Definitely.
banger. And there's some great, like I say, just some great characters in there.
Mm,
Some of the
Mm.
character
awesome.
work's really, really good. But yeah, that's Curse of the Demon or Night of the Demon from 1957. Really worth a watch.
Awesome. Awesome. Right, so my second film is a film called Afflicted from
Ooh.
2013. Have you guys seen that one?
Yes, this is one of my
No,
favorite.
Ah, it's
no, I
great, isn't it?
haven't.
It's so good.
Mm.
So good.
I think I'm
So it's
thinking of
a
Affliction, like Nick Nolte movie. Is
no,
there
it's
Oh, no.
Afflicted. Afflicted, yeah.
This is
different
not Nick
one?
Different.
Nolte, I'm afraid.
Yeah, completely different. So this is directed, written, and starring Cliff Prowse and Derek Lee. And it's about two friends. It's a found footage film. Two friends who are documenting a round the world trip. And one of them basically has like a potentially fatal brain condition. It can flip at any time and he can literally just drop dead pretty much any moment. So they start a blog and they want to go on this round the world trip, just so that he can live as much of his life as he can with his best friend. But after a mysterious encounter abroad, one of them begins exhibiting violent superhuman symptoms. And as his condition worsens into something monstrous, their footage captures a terrifying transformation. So it kind of blends travel log, body horror, and it's very much a personal drama as well as their friendship kind of fractures under the strain of this unstoppable predatory evolution he's going through. And I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler here because it's pretty much made apparent fairly early in the film. He's becoming a vampire. Basically, this girl he meets up with near the very beginning of their journey. She feels sorry for him because she knows he's dying, so she turns him into a vampire. And the rest of the film is basically them discovering this for themselves. To start with, it's great. It's all fun and games, as Blake Snyder would say. He's outrunning motor cars, he's jumping over buildings, he's punching through concrete bricks. It's great. And then he goes out in the sun and almost gets cooked alive, and he needs to start drinking blood, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And obviously, his family are trying to find him, and he's trying to find out what's happening to him. it's a really good film. You know, it's a real gem. You can it's I mean it's as I said, written, directed, and starring two really good friends, and you can just kind of feel the labor of love that went into this film. You know, you can just tell in the way it's shot, in the way it's acted, the way it's written. This is a real kind of personal labor of love for these guys. And I think they've made not only one of the best found footage films that I've seen in recent memory, but it's a really good personal drama as well, because there's some really strong moments between them, and as Derek, as his condition gets worse and worse, and it's funny as well. There's some really kind of funny moments in there. I don't want to spoil them for you, but there's definitely a kind of dark sense of humor to this film as well.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
it's kind of a shame there was never a sequel to it, I think.
I remember you mentioning this on one of the episodes, and I
Yeah,
think I
yeah,
went
it
to
was
watch a
my
trailer, and the trailer was
mm,
astonishingly sort of good.
yeah, and
Trailer is
it
great because, sorry, I was just going to say on the trailer, it's great because it got more attention than I think it would have done normally because it's time stamped. So what you get is you get effectively diary entries from their
mm,
travels,
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's told in reverse order, the trailer. So you instantly know that this film is going to get worse the longer it gets on. But the
yeah,
way that it's told isn't a traditional trailer structure,
mhm,
it's told in reverse. And
okay.
it's
yeah.
so cool. It instantly grabs your attention. And then you go,
That's
oh my God, what is this? I want to see it. It's really clever.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. I
interesting.
don't think I've seen the trailer for it. I'll have to check it out
Now you
now.
know
But
what happens. You have to watch it, and then you realise actually
yeah,
it
yeah,
does
no,
it
that's
in reverse
brilliant.
order. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah.
But this was another of my, as I mentioned earlier, my just trawling Amazon in the hopes of finding a hidden gem, and we settled on this one because the trailer looked pretty, not the trailer, but the like the brief clips that they do when you highlight the things, and but no, this was absolutely great. I absolutely love it. I think you would enjoy this one. Well, I think this is one that
Yeah,
you would quite enjoy.
yeah. I think I'll probably have a look at this one because I'm interested in the sort of the found footage kind of genre,
Hmm.
and how they sort of work that because
Yeah.
it's
I mean, I
interesting.
think it was shot for around about like 300,000,
That's what I
over
was going
just
to
over
say is
300,000, and it
lends
looks like
itself
a
to low
million
budgets.
bucks. You know, it
Mm.
looks a lot better. Like the special effects for what they are pretty damn good.
Yeah, I
And
think with found
Definitely.
footage, you have to have the right hook. You have to,
yeah,
Mm.
it
yeah,
has to be the
it
right
has to
sort
have
of
a reason to be found footage.
exactly. Yeah,
Otherwise, it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
otherwise it just becomes a crappy gimmick.
Mm.
But
Exactly.
yeah,
And also if you're going to be editing it together, I think the best found footages are like effectively Blair Witch, where they run almost effectively to the time of the story.
yeah,
Yeah,
If you're
real
going to
time.
start editing in other pieces or other people's camera work, then actually it's more of a mockumentary. It's
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to almost explain the rationale for why things are being edited. I'm a big found footage and mockumentary and now screen life fiend as well. So yeah, that's my wheelhouse at the moment.
Brilliant,
So I
brilliant.
have some recommendations to throw your way then, Will, if that's something of interest.
Yeah, nice,
Um,
nice.
but the other thing for me as well about this is after I was like you, Lee, I found it on Shudder some years ago, is that actually just looking back into it, this is their first feature, which is
Yeah.
highly impressive. And also they had originally written this to be a web series. So they were going to break it down
Oh,
into like a travel
Oh,
vlog and have
amazing.
every episode be in a new place, which
yeah.
I really want to see now. I want to see almost a reimagining, someone take this or this concept and go, like every episode you get a little bit of him
Yeah.
almost falling apart, and then in the couple of episodes later he discovers these new abilities and
Hmm.
kind of has that, as you say, a Marvel moment and an
Yeah.
invincibility moment, and then you
Yeah.
see the deterioration again, and it would be a really wonderful roller coaster to see as a series, as a web series
That would
perhaps.
have
I
been
don't know if that's ever
fantastic,
going to be a
actually, wouldn't it?
concept.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, just slightly off on a tangent, do you think, like, if you're watching something like this broken up into a web series, versus the whole, I always think with something like that, you just want to watch the whole thing back to back to back. And so
Mm.
you might as well do a feature, I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe that's just me, my sort of taste, but I'd just be like, oh, I just want to see the next one. I'd just rather
Yeah.
binge all of these.
Yeah.
I think at the moment that's probably our brains being trained to having the that have it instant kind of thing. The Netflix era, the Amazon Prime era of having series not necessarily being released week on week anymore. Netflix will drop a whole series of 8 episodes in a day, and then you get that binge watchability, right? We're past that era of having a weekly episodic kind of series and going that tension and that build up is kind of gone now. It's you lose people's attention if you drop things too late. Effectively, if you don't get the whole thing now, you've lost them, which is a real shame, because I really miss those days of having that moment and going, but what happens next, and having that cliffhanger, and that's kind of gone now. But I personally would happily wait if the end scene of each episode was a good enough hook to keep you waiting. I think it would be worth it. The structure of the film certainly leans itself to it having it in different locations as well, and as you say, like the way the narrative twists, it would work really wonderfully as that premise. But I'm so pleased they did it as a feature, because my goodness, what a feature. It's great.
Fantastic.
That's a really good point though, because that could very well have, I mean, I can see it going both ways. It could have been like a massive hit, or it could have just bombed into in obscurity. But I love that idea of just doing it as a travelogue every week. That is really cool. Really
and that
cool.
also would really work well. Sorry, just to say that it would work quite well with the found footage style. You could almost lean into that Blair Witch hype and make it feel more real. If you styled it as a travel vlog, but then had these little moments where something obscure goes off, you're like, oh, hang on, is this real? Is this not? And not let the audience in on the secret. Like the magic with Blair Witch was the marketing, keeping the crew and the cast particular, keeping them away from their own premiere. They weren't able to go to their own premiere see the film for like 2-3 weeks. They were hidden away. Everyone actually thought they were dead. And obviously, of course, it's a different era now because of obviously the accessibility we have to everything. Nothing is really a secret anymore. But I wonder how wonderfully you could play with that. And that found footage and mockumentary style really leans well to that mystery. There are so many out on the market at the moment on Foursome and Found TV and all of these free platforms that you look at it and you go, well, actually, like Horror in the High Desert, I don't know if you've ever seen that. That's out at the moment. There's quite a few series, films in that series now. And it's definitely done in like a travel vlog style, but it feels so real. And that's the joy of these found footage. And I think this is why this one in particular really works so well. It plays with that believability against the fantastical and the horror.
I think the other thing is we really are in an era of kind of vlogging at the moment as well, aren't we? And so it's so ubiquitous. It's kind of a very familiar kind of format, to sort of see films in that sort of found footage vein, but just because lots of people seem to be filming themselves and talking and whatnot, it's become much more. There's much more literacy sort of surrounding that and familiarity surrounding that I think it's kind of. I don't know, probably maybe even more sort of viable than it was whenever this was made, right? 2013, was it?
2013, yeah.
Yeah, so, interesting stuff. I'll probably watch that one, Lee.
Yeah, you should do. There's nothing too extreme in it, but I think you would really enjoy that one. So that was my second pick, which was 2013's Afflicted.
Fantastic. So, Janine, we're on to you again.
Okay, so my next pick, I'm going to deviate off the structure of our list here slightly. I'm going to, just not long after that one, actually, 2014 even, director John Watts produced a really wonderful creature feature in Clown. So this is unlike anything I have seen in recent memory. It's wonderful. So the synopsis is: a father dons a clown costume to entertain his son, only to discover it cannot be removed and carries a demonic curse. Gradually transforming into a child-eating monster, he struggles to protect his family while losing his humanity, racing against time to break the curse before he becomes the very nightmare he fears. So this is produced by somebody very synonymous with the horror genre in Eli Roth, and he actually also stars in this, as does another genre favorite and actually just general acting colossal in Peter Stormare. There are some great performances in it, and the joy I had in this film, if you can use that, it's probably the wrong word to describe it, actually. It's really a hard, dark watch. It's not fun. This is not your local kind of circus clown. This isn't a Pennywise moment where, of course, you have moments of really dark child-eating trauma, for want of a better word, with Stephen King. But then you have the levity in that Pennywise is trying to entice children with joy and fun. This is not that. This is the darker side. And you can really see the main character effectively dresses as something that he is scared of to bring light and fun to his child for his birthday. And you can see the torment. He's trying to, like, there's moments where he's pulling the makeup off. He's got a round nose, that whole thing. He's got the big fake nose, and he's trying to pull it off, and it's permanently attached to his nose, and he's tearing skin to get this off of him. And they have to go to the hospital to try and get it surgically removed. The suit is almost stitched to his skin. The wig, he has this giant, colourful wig. He can't pull it off. He's like pulling at the roots, and it's almost in with the follicles. It's really traumatic to watch, even the open of this. And to watch you struggle. And of course, the wife doesn't believe him. You know, she says, why didn't you go to work? Well, he's still got the makeup on. He's scrubbing and it doesn't come off. And it's that kind of what's happened kind of thing. And then you watch him, like, I'm not going to get into the full proper spoils, but the beginning is really interesting. So he goes back to the place where he got the costume, and he has a conversation with the person in the store. And then he finds out that actually there's a law attached to this costume. And the thing that I really loved about it, apart from it being really dark and the way that, and what he turns into, they build clown lore, which are two words I never thought I'd say, ever. But it's real creature lore. They've turned it into a mythological creature that has its own history. And there's a real feeling that there's a world building around this beyond the runtime of just under, like, I think it's about 180 thereabouts minutes, if that. And it feels like something that's part of a much bigger picture. And I actually didn't know about this film when it came out. It went under the radar for me. I only watched it probably last year.
Yeah.
But it's up there in my top 10 without a doubt. It is so absolutely graphic. It's horrendous emotionally, and when you see what happens at the end, you're just hand in mouth. Like my jaw was on the floor. I couldn't get this out of my head for quite a while.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite something to behold.
Sounds absolutely awful.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's
really bad. Yeah, but it's honestly, it's one of those that when I put it on lists and things, people go, I forgot this existed. Then you rewatch it and you go, my God, that's wonderful. It's so well created. It's and to have lore is, it's just, it puts it another level above. There are lots of clown horrors. Obviously, we've got Pennywise and stuff, but there's also Stitches, which has Ross Noble in it, which is a British clown, but it's a bit more kind of comedy horror. But then that takes a darker vein. That's on Prime. If you haven't seen that, I can see the confusion on your face, Will. That's a really good one.
That's right. I'm confused by the whole thing. Everything's confusing to me.
Really loved it. And the way that the creatures take possession and the way that's explained is very well done as well. I'm definitely not going to spoil that, but it was like a wow, my God, there really is no escaping the fate that this man's going to have. And it's it's a dark watch, but it's worth it.
I think I might struggle with this one, actually. I'm not sure I'm going to get to this one anytime soon. Have you seen this, Lee?
Come on. Yeah, I've seen it. It's great. It's probably one of the most realistic, for lack of a better term, kind of demon possession movies.
You're not,
because it is like the whole thing is shot. There's no like flamboyance to it. It's all just like
very
you could be watching a documentary almost. It's incredibly naturalistic, and it's horrifying. I mean, and the very concept of it, and you're just there with this poor guy through the whole ordeal from start to finish. And it is a genuinely horrifying film, but it's great. It's so good. But yeah, absolutely recommend Clown. 100%.
You would actually watch him as well. He's almost stripped of his humanity come the end of it. You see him broken as a person. The way the way it does it, it's not just a quick blow to the ego. It's not a quick like finish. You see him deconstruct himself as a person, and then see physically he's in the mirror and he's looking at himself. He doesn't recognize obviously the person he's looking at, because that's him now behind a mask and behind makeup that he can't remove. And then it's him, the way his physical changes, his voice changes, his behavior changes as this thing takes control. And then obviously the reactions to people around him. He can't go out in public, his family can't be near him, and then the behavioral changes really go dark, where he starts to do the child eating, and the impulsiveness takes in. Then he can't be around his own child, and that is really the trauma of it. There's the creature horror, and obviously clowns are terrifying for the most part, but it's actually the humanity and the loss of humanity here is, and the struggle with having this really close familial bond that's then destroyed through something he was trying to do out of a wonderful act for his child for their birthday. It's such a great idea that turns into an absolute nightmare, and it's something to watch. It's not for everybody, but I would absolutely recommend it.
Sounds like it could be sort of thematically quite rich, with the sort of
it is.
deconstruction of fatherhood or masculinity or whatever, sounds interesting. Interesting stuff. What's your favorite horror clown?
It's got to be Pennywise, isn't it? It has to be Pennywise for me. Yeah.
What, the Tim Rice Pennywise, or Curry, even, not Tim Rice?
No, it's not Curry.
Would be very different.
That would be different, wouldn't it?
Tim Curry was
the musical lyrics. Is he the musical?
Yeah, we'll throw him in a Cliche Miike film. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But no, Curry was great. But I think Skarsgård has just kind of made that role his own.
Easy boy, is he?
Although I wish I could have seen Will Poulter's test footage for it, because he was he was originally going to be the clown.
That would have been interesting.
And apparently he was absolutely terrifying. And I love Will Poulter too. I think I'm not entirely sure. I think there's like a change of director, and went in a different direction. And obviously they cast Skarsgård, who was absolutely amazing. Not to take a word from him, but I'm a real big fan of Will Poulter, and I would have just loved to have seen what he did with it. I think he's playing Pennywise in the new Scary Movie. So that will be interesting. Maybe we'll get like if that's true, maybe we'll get like a glimpse of what could have been there. But yeah, for me it's Pennywise, but Art is probably a very close second.
Janine,
how about you?
Any thoughts?
I'm echoing your thoughts with Pennywise for sure. Actually, the reason I'm into horror is childhood trauma through Tim Curry. So it's almost everyone's gateway entrance, but it's cliche, but it's so true. To the point where I couldn't watch anything with Tim Curry in until my mid-teens. I was devoid of Muppet Treasure Island, Rocky Horror. I got taken to see Burke and Hare with some friends, thinking, oh, this is going to be wonderful. This is Simon Pegg and it's grave robbers and it's going to be great. And then like the second scene in, they're in the courthouse, and of course our judge in widescreen, high def, surround sound is Tim Curry. So I cower into my seat and I'm crying, I'm shaking, I'm having a nervous breakdown, I have to leave. It was horrendous. But it's now to the point where, to echo your thoughts again, it's watching the newer version, the 2017 in the cinema. I had a rally round with all my friends who got me into the cinema to watch it, terrified. And that opening scene with the arm rip, and I'm like, oh my God, this is glorious. Tim who? And now I've got him tattooed on me. I'm obsessed. Like Skarsgård. And even, I think, to your point about the casting of it, it will be interesting to see who takes on that mantle now with Welcome to Derry. Obviously, they're doing another series, and Skarsgård's owning this, but he's such a, for want of a better term, and my friend coins this really well, a freak boy. He plays loads of these really obscure roles that I don't see him being pigeonholed to that for very long, much longer, to be honest. There won't be another film, I don't think. But the one thing I love about Skarsgård more than anything is the turn-up smile and the eyes. He can do that independently without the makeup. And so he's naturally going to be that fit for that. That's
Jack Nicholson crazy running through that face.
Yeah. He's got that Skarsgård talent, but with the Jack Nicholson crazy, and I'm here for it.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so are we back round to me? Is it my turn again?
Indeed.
think we are. Okay, so what should we go with this time? Okay, so this one is a really, really bizarre film, both in terms of content and also tonally, totally bizarre. So this is a film called, well, there's a couple of names. It's quite often known as Girly, but it's also known as Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly. And this is from 1970. And this is directed by Freddie Francis, who you may have heard of. And it's written by Brian Comport and Maisie Moscow. Have you ever heard of this film, guys?
Never.
I have, no.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic.
Did I watch this
I feel like I've got one over on the both of you. This is brilliant. Okay, so this is exactly what I was after. So, so this is made in 1970. Freddie Francis was a really well regarded cinematographer and moved into directing as well. And he photographed some amazing movies. I mean, he sort of did some work with David Lynch. I think he did the original Dune. He did Straight Story, Elephant Man. And he did, I think he made Glory with, Denzel Washington. And I'm pretty sure he did Cape Fear with Martin Scorsese as well. So he's really sort of well-regarded cinematographer, and then moved into direction. And this one was one of his. So, so I'll read you the sort of synopsis. It's in a decaying mansion, a bizarre pseudo family lures unsuspecting men into their twisted domestic games. Treating captives as playthings, they blur innocence and cruelty until one victim disrupts their fragile dynamic. As roles shift and power fractures, their grotesque fantasy threatens to collapse into violence, obsession, and psychological ruin. I mean, what a banger of a premise that is. So, like, I first heard about this film on the what's it called? It's the Video Archives podcast. Do you guys listen to that at all, or did you listen to that when it was? Okay, so that's
No, I can't say
basically a podcast that Tarantino does with Roger Avery, and they watch old sort of VHS movies, or they watch old movies basically on VHS. And the idea is that Tarantino inherited or took or bought the Video Archives kind of video collection when the store closed down. And they pick out, 3 films and watch them. So I heard about this on that. But this one it's completely bonkers. There's nothing sort of particularly gory in it at all, really. But it's just has this kind of tonal quality that is so bizarre. So the film opens up basically with these 2 sort of kids kind of dressed in kind of school uniform, basically. And they're at this kind of, they essentially at this kind of playground, and they lure this kind of guy into this big house, and he sort of comes into the house, and he's kind of introduced to the other 2 sort of at the house, which is Mumsy and Nanny. And my understanding is that none of these people are related, and there's no sort of backstory given as to why this is happening or kind of what's going on. You're just sort of thrown into this bizarre sort of world, and it kind of becomes apparent that they are, as it sort of says, they're sort of essentially kind of luring people in off the streets, usually men, and then sort of kind of turning them into victims, like sort of either killing them or trying to sort of in some way initiate them into this kind of weird family dynamic. And they have all these rules and these strange sort of things that they go through, some rituals and stuff. And it's really, really odd. Like, it plays like a kind of, it's like a sort of Carry On film almost, like tonally, like it's sort of, it has that sort of quality to it. And the sort of Girly is sort of, I guess, the kind of protagonist, but she's sort of dressed, as a kind of schoolgirl and really short skirt, and she's obviously sort of being flirtatious and everything. And her and Sonny have this kind of odd sort of dynamic and way of talking to each other. And then there's the nanny, who's kind of slightly kind of frumpy lady, who's, sort of a bit more meek, I guess, to start with. And Mumsy is this kind of slightly older glamorous kind of woman who's obviously sort of, sexually slightly repressed somehow, or she's not getting she's not getting enough dick basically, and she's sort of trying to seduce these guys that the kids are bringing in. Anyway, so you're presented with this sort of odd kind of family dynamic in this big kind of old crumbling house, and what happens is, I mean, basically they sort of, this guy, the first guy they take isn't really working out for whatever reason, so they go and get another guy who's out with his kind of girlfriend or wife. It's I can't quite remember if it's girlfriend or wife, but they're obviously having a bit of a tough time, and he sort of takes a shining to Gurley, and they're in this kind of play park going on swings and slides, and these two sort of adults are a little bit drunk, and the kids are sort of trying to sort of lure them in. Basically, it's really weird, and then they sort of manufacture it that the girlfriend or the wife kind of falls off this slide that she's at the top of and dies, and so they sort of get this guy to sort of, they convince this guy that he is the reason that she died, he sort of killed her, and bring him back to the house. And then he sort of is presented with the same thing the first guy was presented with, right? These weird characters. What's this dynamic going on here? You've got all these rules at mealtime, and he's sort of is a bit, you kind of think, he just wants, at a time he's just thinking, what the fuck's going on? Like, I'm just going to leave. And then they're sort of, don't forget about your girlfriend or wife or whatever. They're keeping her in this trunk. They show him the sort of body and stuff. And so he sort of basically resolves to kind of stay and starts to kind of turn the tables on this family dynamic. So he sort of, I think he seduces the mother or mumsy. And then him and Gurley start kind of going at it, and Nanny's getting jealous, and so he starts banging Nanny as well. And then this Sonny is kind of turning slowly into this kind of, he kind of knows what's going on, and it's totally bonkers, but it's so worth a watch. Like, it's just tonally really, it sort of shifts from odd kind of slightly funny sort of tone to psychological kind of, really quite psychologically messed up people. And you're just thinking, like, why are these people here? Like, what the fuck are these people doing here? What's happened? And it's never really revealed. And then this guy sort of slowly starts to kind of mess with all of these people in this family dynamic. And it's a really interesting watch. Like, there's, as I say, there's nothing desperately kind of scary or gory in this, but it's tonally, it is bizarre, like completely bizarre. And everyone's kind of going for it as well. Like, no one's just turning in a performance. Like, everyone is totally in. How sort of Freddie Francis got across the tone of this, and to the actors is really impressive. But it, just for the pure sort of oddness of it, I'd highly recommend that you watch this one, because it is like nothing else I've really sort of watched particularly.
It does sound a bit like a fever dream, doesn't it?
This is instantly reminding me, just listening to it, I'm thinking of Brian Yuzna's Society.
Okay.
The way that okay, so you're in for a treat. But the way it's being described as being a family unit that are seemingly one thing, and then it twists into something much more sordid, for want of a better term, is exactly how I'm playing this in my mind. Like, I don't, obviously it's not going to be anything to like that. So Society is a 1989 film that is starts really light-hearted and really wonderful, and then turns into extreme body horror with the grossest scene probably in the 80s. And there was some Cronenberg madness and things in the 80s, of course, but the way it's being described, in my head it's running like Society, and if that's anything like that without the body horror, I'm in. It's on my watch list. I've written it down already. I'm sold.
I mean, it's just, I think it's worth the watch just because it's so different. Like
Mm.
it's,
Mm.
it's kind of, as I say, there's no real kind of gore, but it does turn into these kind of power games and, you know,
Yeah.
sort of psychology, obviously these characters are psychologically kind of screwed up in some way or another, but it's never really kind of gone into.
Yeah,
And it just sort of, as I say, this new guy comes in and, just thinks I'm going to play this game. The only way out is through, and I'm going to play the game and sort of just turn them all against each other. And he sort of manages to do it, it's a really interesting way. But it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, I don't think
yeah,
I've sort of spoiled it too much, but it's really just tonally and the way it looks is completely not like anything I've really seen in
yeah.
in the genre. Um,
It makes me think of a film called Mum and Dad, like a British
okay,
horror film called Mum and Dad.
I haven't heard of that.
I,
That's
it's
ringing a bell.
yeah, it's about this couple, mum and dad, and they basically like kidnap sort of like teenagers, like young adults to be like their children. Um, so
Oh,
like then the dad is like this like sick kind of serial killer, evil
Mhm.
rapist kind of guy, and the mother is she's just as twisted, but she likes to like carve artwork on the kids, and
mm.
it's really good. It's a really dark, really like disturbed movie, but it was really
This is
good.
setting, this is setting up in my head a whole, like, I feel like this recommendation of Mumsy, Nanny, Sunny, and Girly, what a mouthful,
I know.
um,
Well, they
could
did say
really
girly as
be.
well. Girly's the other title that it's known as.
Oh, okay, good.
Shortened.
So that really feels like it could be the start of like a rabbit hole of other films leading
Mm,
into, as you say, Mum and Dad,
yeah,
potentially The Visit as well, if you've never
yeah,
seen that, with
yeah.
grandparents who ultimately aren't
Aren't
grandparents
the
but turn out to be
grandparents? Yeah.
something a lot worse.
Oh dear.
And then obviously Society, like that. That's just the image in my head. That's all I can imagine now. So this is going top of my watch list now.
It's
This is it.
really
Oh.
interesting. I mean, it's, whether you like it or not, I don't know, but it's just for the purely sort of for something completely different, it's
Mm.
definitely worth a watch. Yeah, so I mean that was fun. I sort of enjoyed that one just for the kind of, it's completely out there. It's, odd.
Where did you find that one to watch? Where
So
is
I
it
found this one
available?
on YouTube as well. Yeah, so it's
Fabulous.
out there in the public domain, I think. So it's a YouTube flick. You can find that one. Pretty good
Brilliant.
copy as well, actually. Um, but yeah, when you watch the sort of opening credits, you're thinking, what is this? Like this feels like Carry On meets Hammer. You know what I mean?
Mm,
It's
Ooh,
that
okay.
kind of tone, like it's camp, it's kind of absurd. And these characters are sort of that only occasionally do they, as the film goes on, they sort of the facade drops, and that's really interesting. But it starts. It's really weird, like how it
mm.
starts. It's just, I thought, like, am I watching the right film? Because this is odd. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was mine, and I kind of enjoyed that one. I thought that was fun.
Okay, cool. Okay, so my next one, and I'm betting Janine's going to have something to say about this one, is Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon from
Yep.
2006. As written and directed by Scott Glosson and also written by David Steve. And this one is kind of a mockumentary. It's shot in largely a mockumentary style up until the very sort of final act and where it switches over to a regular movie style. But this is kind of a mockumentary about an aspiring serial killer who invites a documentary crew to chronicle his meticulous preparation for becoming a legendary slasher. And as he explains the rules behind horror icons, admiration turns to dread when the filmmakers realize that they are part of his plan, forcing them to confront the terrifying reality behind genre mythology. And this is kind of it's very much in the vein of Scream, but in the
Mm.
universe of Leslie Vernon, like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Chucky. They're all just like regular guys who have inspired this kind of slasher legend, and there are like rules behind how to be a proper slasher. Um, and this guy Leslie Vernon, he wants to become like the newest big slasher, so he invites this film crew to follow him around, and he's a really like sweet sort of like lovely guy for the most part of the film. um and he's just taking you through all his preparation. Like the film opens with this girl just taking some garbage out, and like suddenly like the door slams shut behind her, even though she's wedged it shut. And then she sees this guy like looming in the shadows, and the door slams shut. She looks around, looks back at him, and he's gone. And a little later in the film, you see him set this whole thing up. So he's like put like a wire on the brick so he can pull it out of the way so the door will slam. And he's like, when the door slams, I'm going to jump out here, and then she's going to turn to the door, and then I'm going to jump back down and hide, and it's going to make her think that I'm like this like teleporting slasher. And you see like all the cardio he has to do because he's like, I have to keep up with these guys and they're sprinting, and I have to look like I'm walking all the time. So every time they're looking forwards, I can sprint to keep up with them. Every time they look back, I've got to look like I'm walking. And it just really delves deep into the kind of slasher mythology and just breaks it down into a really funny, really clever way. It's kind of like if Scream had no budget, you probably would have ended up with something a little bit like this. And they have just announced that they're doing a sequel 20 years later. They're kickstarting a sequel. Yeah, they've just launched the Kickstarter today. Yep. So the Kickstarter has gone live today. So there will be a return. The original cast, original writer, director, everyone's coming back. And yeah. So I'm really excited about this one. But this is one that really deserves to be seen by a lot more people. I think it needs more recognition because it's a fantastically clever, really well written, really well acted little film. It does kind of lose its way a little bit in that last act, I think, but it's absolutely fantastic, and it's so clever. It's infinitely rewatchable, and
it really is. And I think I love the most is that it starts off as if he's training the audience to become like him. He's telling you about his training routine. He's telling you about the pitfalls of being a serial killer, even though he's not quite there yet, what he's aspiring to be. He's like, watch for trip hazards, check your exits. He's like doing that method, like kind of checklist, like Randy does in Scream. He's telling you all the things to avoid in a horror film. And Leslie is doing all those things, but from a serial killer perspective. So it's flipped on its head, and it's like a boot camp for serial killers. It's so good. It's such an ingenious premise. Yeah,
so for any
it's really good.
Serial killers out there, this is the movie to watch.
But it's not being a serial killer, it's being a slasher. There's a very big difference between being a serial killer and being a slasher, as you'll find out like in this movie. And he has like a mentor who is supposed to be an older version of Billy from Black Christmas. They never outright state it, but it's heavily implied.
An expert.
Yeah. And he's like an old retired slasher, and he's just kind of given Leslie all these pointers throughout the movie, and is played by Scott Glenn, who was Herschel in Walking Dead, if you ever watched Walking Dead. But he's great in the film. It's just wonderful. Robert Englund pops up in there as well at some point. He's like the Sam Loomis to Leslie Nielsen's Michael Myers. But I can't say enough good things about it. It's just a really clever, really enjoyable, really well thought out film. And I think this is one, Will, that you would really enjoy. Okay. So it's not particularly gory or gruesome or horrific. It's not very scary. But if you like slasher movies and you love like the whole mythology behind them, you'll get a real kick out of this, because there's so many like little in jokes, like Janine was saying, like about prepping your exits and watching for trip hazards and all these little things that he points out during the film. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and I highly recommend it.
When he's going through that almost checklist, you can fix it in your head. If you imagine watching Scream for the first time and they're running up the stairs, they're fumbling up the stairs over their own cloak. And even in Scream 3, where they throw the knife and it bounces, the blade, their handle bounces off the victim, because it's obviously Ghostface it's never really a proper killer, right? Air quotes. Yeah. It's not a professional, it's a kid. Playing to seek vengeance on friends or whatever. It's that kind of I would love to see these two tied together in a double feature, because it's like you're prepping them with Leslie, and then you're watching Scream do all the stuff that Leslie's told you not to do.
Yeah,
So
it
much
is.
fun.
It's like a 1-2 punch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
If
wonderful.
Ghostface had watched Leslie Vernon first, he'd be a lot more effective.
The kill count would be insane. Yeah. It would be wonderful.
We'd still have the same Ghostface from the original film, most likely, as well.
Oh my God, Stu would still be alive.
Yep, Stu would still be alive.
Oh man, I didn't think of that. That's just hit a nerve. That's wonderful.
But yeah, that's my next pick. Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon from 2006. Check it out. It's great. You can buy it on Amazon. The Blu-ray is quite hard to get hold of. DVD is a little hard to get hold of, but you can pick it up on Amazon. It's well worth the cost of it. And if you enjoy it, go and check out the Kickstarter, which went live today. The Return of Leslie Vernon. It's going to be great. Help them out if you can, because it's going to be a fantastic film.
Oh, I'm jumping straight on that when I get back online later.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. So my next one is from a quite well-known family of independent filmmakers in the genre. This is actually one of their lesser-known titles. This is Hellhole from 2024, directed by John Adams and Toby Poser, who everyone will know most recently from Mother of Flies, that went on to Shudder. The synopsis of this is, at a remote fracking site, workers uncover a parasitic organism buried deep underground, unleashing a grotesque infection that rapidly consumes its hosts. As containment fails, a small group fights to survive escalating body horror and corporate negligence, confronting an ancient biological threat that transforms the human body into something violently unrecognizable. So this is set in Serbia, and it has a cast that's mixed between American workers based on the Serbian site and local workers too. There's a really interesting tone to this film because of the use of both languages that I think breeds authenticity. And predominantly it is effectively because of the parasitic organisms. I feel that this is interesting. It's kind of a body horror, but then it's also plays into the psychological thing. To mention The Thing, it plays really well into John Carpenter in that you have a parasite that requires a host to survive, but there are moments where you don't know who is infected, and that's really fun to play with in this landscape. The cold open to this is wild. It is set in a different time period. It's almost like a settlement kind of era. You've got somebody who effectively rides in on horseback, and he looks almost like I'm trying to think of the Headless Rider, Sleepy Hollow. So he's riding up in that kind of garb, that era, and he turns up to this local village, and then you realize he gets infected, and effectively he then ends up getting buried, and at this fracking site, that's the corpse that they uncover that then unleashes this parasite later on in the story. So you get thrown in at the deep end without knowing too much about the film in one time period, and then you discover something in modern day, and then the two align beautifully. As expected with the Addams family, if anyone's not aware, they're a family, mother, daughter, and husband and father, who write, create, produce, edit, score their own films. There's amazing. 7, 8 of them. They're all independent, mostly with a folklore kind of tie-in to them. And this felt a little bit removed from that. This isn't really a folk horror. This is more creature feature, body horror. It's creepy, it's weird, but it's tonally, there are really wonderful moments of levity in there as well. You can tell almost the class differences as well between the Serbian teams and the Americans coming in. So there's a little bit of that, as well as the distrust in terms of cultural distrust.
Yeah, there's a culture clash.
definitely with those teams coming into their ground and kind of taking over their workforce effectively. So you've got that, then you've got the added element in of other things. I found this on Prime a couple of years ago, so I think hopefully it's still there for everyone to access if you have a Prime membership. And it's an easy watch. It doesn't take a lot of thought. Creature design for me, it kind of took me out of it a little bit. It is quite CG heavy, but bear with it because the writing in it is great. It's definitely a throw on, don't have to think too much kind of a film. Some of the Addams Family films feel like you have to kind of really sit and pay attention and let the lore seep into your bones. This isn't that. This is a fun watch. Anyone could kind of access it without having to think too heavy about it. And there's quite a fun way that the parasites take hosts without spoiling. They opt for certain hosts over others, and I thought that was quite a nice power dynamic to play with. So we'll leave that there if anyone hasn't seen it. Don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a fun watch, and it's by trusted filmmakers in my eyes, some of my favorites at the moment.
Yeah. It's interesting with something like this, over something like a folklore sort of movie. There's, you feel, you sort of naturally think that something that's folklore based, you need more exposition, right? So you probably do have to pay more attention. Whereas something like this, kind of almost like a sort of, well, like you say, sort of creature feature thing, there's probably less kind of sitting around and talking about the lore of it all that you need to do, right? You just sort of, this thing's attacking us, we need to try and get over it. So it's interesting you mentioned about there's less kind of sitting around talking about stuff, and there's less absorption of lore that you have to do when watching it. You can kind of just let this wash over you, right?
I think it's there's a lot of dialogue in it, but it's very much like leaning back to John Carpenter, and the reason I reference that is because it's the distrust of characters in a small group. It's not knowing who has the once they realize that it is a parasite and it jumps effectively from person to person, and destroys the host that it's controlling, because it's a symbiotic relationship effectively. There's that element there, so that it's a lot of characters' dialogue is kind of disseminating, right? Are you infected? Trying to process of elimination. What is it that we realize that we can use to identify who has got this creature inside of them? And there's also really interesting the tie-in, as I said to the beginning. You don't really realize the tie-in. You just think, oh, that's got nothing to do with it. Why was that there? And then when you realize that it takes a minute when they exhume the corpse, and then they think, oh my God, what is this? You don't recognize the character, and then something happens, and then, oh my God, you realize it all pieces together wonderfully. It's it's truly actually, I think, a better film than a lot of people are giving it the ratings for. It's not one of their best, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, definitely. And it's again, you go in kind of expecting not very much, but you're kind of blown away a little bit. Yeah, I think so. I love a creature feature anyway.
Anything that gets kind of gets like put in a similar hole to The Thing, which is my all-time favorite movie, is a definite watch for me. So I'll definitely be checking this one out.
Don't hold it as a comparable though.
Nothing will be comparable. Nothing is comparable to The Thing.
But it's quite a high benchmark to reach.
It is. But no, anything that's even remotely kind of on that same kind of plane, I'm all in on that one. So I'll be checking that one out.
Cool.
Interesting.
Can't wait to hear your thoughts on it.
That sounds good. Is the sort of environment like slightly, is it sort of hemming them in? Is it stopping them getting away? The sort of the remoteness of it?
Really, they're kind of limited because they're in an area that it's fracking, right? So they're in a remote area anyway. They're surrounded by woodlands and rough terrain. So they're kind of shut off remotely anyway. So that builds to the distrust, that builds to their kind of isolation, and they feel like the walls are closing in, and the more victims there are, obviously the group lessens, therefore it gets heightened. All the tension, everything gets heightened. It's not a snowy landscape from what I remember. It has been a couple of years since I watched it, but it's remote. Certainly it definitely feels like you instantly feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
which is
brilliant.
wonderful. And
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
communication is cut off as well, which is key for these kind of films. Like if you
Yeah,
can
I was
call
gonna
for
say.
help and get a copter in, it's kind of game over in 10 minutes. But
Yeah, perfect. Ah, that sounds cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I might give that one a little look. Okay,
yes,
well, should we?
that's definitely more accessible.
Yeah, should we move on then? Should we
Yep, rock and
move on
roll.
to my next one? So, the next one for me is a film by a writer-director called Peter Strickland, who isn't sort of really known necessarily for his horror. This is a film called, and I'm not sure quite how to pronounce it, but Barbarian Sound Studio from 2012.
That's
This
the
is
one.
yeah, written, directed by Peter Strickland. John Crocker is also a writer on this one. So you've seen this one, Janine, have you?
Yes. This was a
Cool.
recommendation I had. I went to Black Sunday Film Festival and I interviewed a director who was showing a short, and I asked him for a comparable for his, and he recommended this. So I watched it on the back
Amazing.
of his recommendation. Yeah.
Ah, cool. Okay, so this is basically starring Toby Jones, who's really, really good
I love
in
Toby Jones.
pretty much everything. The synopsis is: a timid British sound engineer travels to Italy to work on a disturbing horror film. But as he crafts gruesome audio effects, the line between fiction and reality dissolves. Isolated by language and environment, his psyche fractures, plunging him into a nightmarish descent shaped by sound, paranoia, and psychological disintegration. Let's say it properly. So, yeah, this is a really interesting film. I mean, Peter Strickland's a really interesting filmmaker. Do you know any sort of Peter Strickland movies other than this one?
Rattle
He's
some
done a
off
few.
and I'll tell you.
None of them are sort of hugely well known, really, but he's got a sort of really good reputation, certainly in the UK, as sort of being quite an interesting filmmaker. Some of his films are a little bit out there, sort of a little bit kind of avant-garde, maybe. But this one is sort of, plays it sort of fairly straight, doesn't it? But there's some really interesting sort of things. So the reason I chose this is, I like Toby Jones, obviously. I'm interested in Peter Strickland in general. But also, I love films about filmmaking, and this
Mm.
one sort of ticked that box as well. So he's heading off to sort of this sound engineer is heading off to Italy basically to work on this film, which is sort of a kind of giallo kind of movie, I guess, that they're working on. It's kind of a sort of lots of screaming and kind of, sound effects of, hammering melons and stuff like that, getting all squelching and stuff. But you sort of see behind the scenes of how they create all of these sound effects and the Foley effects for, the film that's being made. But I mean, this is kind of interesting. This really sort of relies a lot on sort of psychological horror rather than anything gory, and really heavily sort of relies on soundscape and sort of creating disturbing kind of atmosphere through the sounds that they're creating, and how these sounds kind of permeate the whole sort of the whole film. And Toby Jones is really good in it. He sort of is quite timid and sort of a little bit sort of, you know, British polite to start with. And as the film goes on, he sort of starts to unravel a bit psychologically. Yeah, I mean, he's sort of coming up against, this sort of Italian film crew that are around, and, he's trying to work in this place. And it's really, really interesting. There's some sort of interesting kind of thematics kind of going on. There's this kind of misogynistic kind of thing that runs through the whole film. It's and it's also talks a bit about masculinity and that sort of stuff. It sort of ends up kind of creating this really I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of a audio visual experience that you're kind of going through, rather than relying on set pieces necessarily or kind of gore. It's a slow kind of build as Toby Jones's kind of psychology starts to untangle. And there are bits that really sort of leave you kind of questioning, what's going on. And, this is really, it's just really, really interesting and really sort of different, but definitely worth a watch, because I mean, Strickland is such a talented kind of filmmaker and has a real grasp of all of the different elements of film. I think it's Really worth a watch. Very, very. How did you find it, Janine? What did you? I can't. It's difficult to describe a little bit, but
It really is, and I like the way that it doesn't play in traditional realms of horror. It plays more on that audible nightmare.
yeah,
That's kind of having a real moment. And I'm finding that the more kind of films I consume, and the way I consume films. So a bit of background. So when I watch films at home, I'm alone in the dark with a laptop and Bluetooth headphones, and
Hmm.
that's the kind of thing that this film is designed for.
Yeah,
It's made to be something that sits close to you. So you need really good a kind of sound setup for this. The
yeah,
Foley work and sound design in it is key to its success, and I think it's so expertly done and so wonderfully written that it allows to build dread, as you say, psychologically without alluding to too much too soon. It really builds to a nice crescendo as well. I love the set piece in this film. It's
yeah.
nightmare fuel, but I really loved it, and it was unexpected. It's not my normal vein. It's not a normal film I would go for, but it was a recommendation, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a kind of it's the kind of film that you are looking for subtext in, that it's kind of
Mm,
it really makes you think about the themes of the film and what it's trying to say,
mm,
And there's this like I say, there's this whole sort of slightly misogynistic kind of streak that runs through some of it, and there's
mm,
this kind of fetishistic kind of vibe going on through parts of it, and definitely loss of identity and sort of struggling with reality and that sort of thing is playing throughout the whole thing as well. Paranoia, it's really really good, and it's a great performance from Jones as well. Quite kind of restrained, I felt, from Toby Jones, but really, and again, I just love films that deal with filmmaking, so there's a real
yeah.
sort of delight for me to watch kind of behind the scenes, especially sort of older films, how they did things back in the day with all of the film strips and all of the sort of, magnetic tape that they're using for the audio stuff, and the equipment's all analog,
Yeah.
yeah, really, really worth a watch, but different, really different.
Yeah.
Mm. And I think actually there's a recommendation here, if I may. There's an independent feature that's I think is just being released or just about to be released called Vic Effects.
Okay.
VIC effects, and it plays very well actually to this. It's a feature that follows a Foley artist who takes on the unfinished works of one of her sound engineering icons, effectively, who passes away whilst working on a film. And the producer of the film comes to the studio and gives her the equipment that he left behind as part of the will, and says, "We want you to finish this feature for us." And it's then following her as she gets more involved in the filmmaking process, and it effectively takes over her, and it's her descent into madness. And just when
Okay.
I watched this, I got a streamer for that, and I just thought to myself, my God, these two are comparable.
Oh, be a great
It's
double bill,
so
right?
so cool. Yeah, it's really wonderful that this is kind of a vein that people are starting to pick up, is that kind of auditory horror, like that
Yeah.
stuff that just sits here. You don't need a visual to make you feel uncomfortable and to bring about that fear. It's
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
great.
cool. Yeah, so really interesting, that one. I mean, one of the things I liked about it as well is that he sort of is clearly not, particularly enamored with the film that he's working on, and thinks it's, kind of trashy, which is kind of fun. But yeah, definitely worth a watch, that one. Really interesting take, genre take, I think, and definitely doing something different. So worth a watch.
Oh, it's back to me. It's back to me now.
Yeah, you're up next, Lee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
me
on
now.
to you.
I just want to interrupt the thing. I found that dodgy Japanese film. It's called Visitor Q.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
okay.
Visitor Q. It's called. So just for all those people that thought I was had a dodgy Japanese lactation fetish, it is a real film. I stand
Good.
absolved.
Oh,
Excellent. Well, that's
I was
reassuring to know,
starting to
Lee.
I was starting to panic. It was a scene in Happiness of the Katakiris that I'd forgotten. So I'm glad we were relieved.
A win for everybody there. But
Wonderful.
Good.
okay, so my next film is a 2009 slasher called The Hills Run Red. And this one is directed by Dave Parker with the trio of writers David Shaw, John Don Brow, and John Carcietta. So the basic plot of this one is obsessed with a lost slasher film, a group of filmmakers track down its origins, only to encounter the real killer behind it. And as fiction bleeds into reality, they are hunted through remote wilderness by a masked murderer, transforming their passion project into a brutal fight for survival against cinematic horror made real. And the cool thing I like about this one, and you might dig this as well, Will, is it's kind of a film about filmmaking. So there's a legendary slasher film that was released back in like the 70s in this movie's sort of storyline called The Hills Run Red. And the only thing that survives from it are a few sort of stills and a trailer. And so basically this young filmmaker, becomes kind of obsessed with this film and he sets out to try and track down a copy. Because apparently it was so horrifying and so terrifying that that all the prints were destroyed.
Hmm.
And he tracks down the daughter of the original filmmaker and convinces her to take him to the locations where it was filmed. And she's kind of using her in a way, in that he's kind of exploiting her. She's in a vulnerable kind of position, and he's kind of taking advantage of her to try and find the film. So they start to go to the locations where this film was shot, and it just gets very dark very quickly. It starts off as quite an interesting sort of meta slasher, but it gets really dark in the latter half of the film. I don't know, Janine, have you seen this one?
I actually haven't seen this one. I'm familiar
Oh,
with the
wow.
original from the 70s. I
Hmm.
couldn't tell from this because I remember it. I remember the poster had like a doll's head on it. It was
Yes,
like red and
Babyface. Yeah,
yeah.
Babyface.
So I couldn't remember if it was like an homage or if it was an
Hmm.
unofficial sequel, a requel. I don't know. But for
Hmm.
some reason, I just kind of just let it pass me by. So it's another one
Yeah.
for the watch list.
Yeah. You'll enjoy this one. It does go very dark towards the end. But like the killer, like Babyface, the killer looks very cool. His whole kind of
Mm.
mask setup is very cool. It's not just a Babyface mask. He's kind of cut his face to like pieces with a pair of scissors.
Ouch.
There is a law reason why he does this. But
Mm.
it's kind of, I can't drop too many spoilers about it because it kind of ruins the revelations that come in the sort of second half of the film. Um, but it's very much a film of two halves. The first half is them kind of assembling the crew, tracking down this girl, and heading out into the wilderness. And then the second half is kind of where they find what they're looking for, and it's not what they expect.
Hmm.
To put it that way. But it does get very gruesome. It does get very dark. But it's a really good, really well done slasher. It's only about 80 minutes long, so it doesn't
Cool.
overstay its welcome. It's in and out real quick. It hits with a punch, and yeah, I definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it. Definitely.
Nice. Nice.
Awesome.
Is this sounds like a Western, doesn't it? Is it
There was a Western called The Hills Run Red,
hmm.
and they actually referenced this in the movie because the guy's like, yeah, like I did like a million Google searches and it always comes back with this Western from the 60s or something, The Hills
Yeah.
Run Red. But
Hmm.
but yeah, in universe lore, it's this horror film that was supposedly shot in the 70s, and but yeah, it's a really cool kind of meta horror, and it has this really cool mythology. I just love the whole kind of mythology of the forbidden film that no one has seen, but it's out there somewhere, and it's that
Hmm.
quest to find that film.
Yeah.
And
It's
when they
so
do
brutal
find
they
the
had to
film,
burn the
yeah,
prints.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
that's just such a great mythology, isn't it? It's
It
like
is, isn't it? It's great.
it's just so it's like that film. Is it Antrim? The film where like if you watch it, you'll die,
I
and
don't
there's
know
like a
that.
whole
Oh,
documentary
yeah.
attached to the beginning of it about like supposedly like the making of this film, and then they have the film afterwards, and supposedly like again it's all made up, it's all BS, but like at a showing of the film, the cinema burnt down and killed like hundreds of people, and loads of people are supposed to have died watching it, but that's a different film anyway. But yeah, Hills Run Red. It's a really
Mm.
good, really sort of fast-paced slasher. It's got a great looking villain. It's got some really cool twists, got some really nasty kills, and like I say, it goes to some very dark places in that last act, and
Nice.
highly recommended.
Sounds
This
good.
sounds to me like they've played with the way you say about law. It's almost like it's harkened back to the video nasties, that kind
Mm,
of, oh, we can't get a copy of that. I really want it kind of thing,
Yeah,
and
yes.
the
yeah, yeah.
hype around
Yeah.
it. And then when you watch it, like what happens?
Mm,
That's
Mm.
kind of
yeah.
fun. I like that.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of playing off of that kind of nostalgia from the 80s, back when like if you wanted to watch a film, you couldn't just like fire up one of your various streaming services and just
Yeah, to
just
seek
see
it
it,
out.
it was you had to go and
Mm.
find it or find a dodgy copy of it somewhere and
Mm.
it is cool. It is cool. But so you might like this one, Will, you might not. You've got, like I say, it is pretty gruesome, but it does have that whole kind of it's a film about filmmaking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, probably worth a watch just for that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So Janine, you're up next. What's next for you?
So the obscure choices keep on coming. So my next one is a lot more recent. It's 2023, and it's a film called Abruptio, directed by Evan Marlowe. And it focuses on a man who awakens with an explosive device implanted in his neck, forced to obey a mysterious voice issuing violent commands. Navigating a surreal puppet-like world, he must complete increasingly horrific tasks to survive, uncovering a disturbing conspiracy that strips away identity, autonomy, and morality in a grotesque descent into manipulated violence.
Oof.
Yeah, right. That's quite a synopsis right there. This was a film that I had never heard of, that I can't even remember where I found it. It was on some kind of really small streaming service that a couple of years ago. But the cast here reads like a who's who of not just horror but filmmaking in general.
Hmm.
The cast includes voice acting from Jordan Peele, Sid Haig, Robert Englund, who's come up a couple of times already, and James Masters.
Oh,
So that
brilliant.
in itself is
Yeah.
fantastic. A really weird, eclectic mix of acting talent there, but all strong, notable names from the world of filmmaking as well. It stylistically is puppets, but it's not puppets in a way that I have ever seen before.
Hmm.
I thought it was actually animated. And it kind of has almost a stop motion kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's so wonderful. It's doesn't hold back on the gore when it happens, and it has a real kind of sci-fi edge to the ending of it that you don't see coming. You actually cannot figure this out, and kudos to anyone who does, because you're smarter than me. And it's the setup on this is great. There are a few films we have, mostly in Japanese and Korean filmmaking, where you have somebody who is tasked with something and the tasks get increasingly worse up to a possible really awful ending, if not for them, but the people they come across. But to throw that into a mix of a different style of visual is wonderful. The character himself, it just comes across as an everyday guy, which I
Hmm.
really liked. There's nothing that strikes me as particularly special about the main character. He could be an everyday Joe you live next door or down the street to. So that adds the question of why this chap was chosen. And he starts effectively that he doesn't discover the chip at first. He gets like a text message from this unknown number telling him to go to this place. And of course, you just think, oh, it's the wrong number, or you tell him, don't contact me. And then the messages intensify. And then he realizes that actually, if he doesn't do the task in the message, then his situation it decreases. It gets a lot worse. And
Yeah.
his own life is then put at risk. And some of the things he has to do is insane. There
Hmm.
are moments with him and the every character he kind of has what he thinks are chance encounters are actually people in same situations. So every
Oh, that's
roadblock he
cool.
comes across is really cool. So you
Hmm.
realize there's a bigger world. It's not just one person. Almost every character he interacts is on their own same X step journey into the same crazy twisted realm of gameplay or whatever it is that's
Hmm.
turning out to be. There is a wonderful love interest here as well, which is for an everyday Joe is really lovely to see. It adds a bit of like lightheartedness and a bit of hope in a otherwise film that at the end feels very hopeless.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's such a it's so hard to describe without having a visual in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would absolutely encourage everyone, just look at the poster, just look at the artwork of
Mhm.
it, because it just draws you in straight away. It's definitely one that's not spoken about enough.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see people's reactions when they see it, because I don't
Hmm.
it's hard to gauge what kind of film this is going to be from without seeing. Even the trailer doesn't give too much away.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
it's quite a mystery ride, and it's not anything I could really put into a definitive genre of
Hmm.
filmmaking.
It
It,
certainly
it could be up there.
sounds like a thriller premise, doesn't it? You can imagine
Yeah,
like, Mission
That sounds
Impossible
great.
sort
Yeah.
of premise, maybe without the
yeah,
puppets and all of that sort of stuff, but like, with the device in the neck, you've already got that kind of ticking clock thing going on,
Yeah.
right? And it's
yeah.
It kind of
really cool.
harkens me back to that news story, like that real life thing about that guy who had the explosive vest or something strapped to him, and
Yeah.
that someone like told him to rob a bank or something, and he didn't do it, I don't think, and they just blew up, and I don't think they
Mm.
ever, I don't know if they found out who did it to him or not, but at the time it was like a big kind of
Jesus.
big like mystery kind of thing. But yeah, that sucks. But yeah, it sounds really cool actually.
It's really cool. It has devices that remind me of Saw, but without the
Mm.
torture porn elements.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's no way near as horrendous. But
Mm.
because you've got puppets, what violence is there is depraved, but you're kind of a step removed from it. So the
Yeah, yeah.
visuals are there. There are moments where you've got people, hacking up body parts and throwing them into furnaces. But actually, because it's not really visceral in that regard as how you would normally view it. You kind of feel like, oh, this is okay, this is acceptable, when
Yeah.
actually it's just disturbing. So
Mm.
it plays on your fears and your horror in a different way completely. It challenges your perception of that kind of filmmaking. It's really clever, very, very well done, and highly recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds like it challenges, like that sort of thing challenges your empathy as well, doesn't it? It's like,
Mm.
you
Mm.
sort of feel sorry for that happening to a person, whereas you don't feel so sorry necessarily for it happening to something, inanimate or whatever, anyway,
It's
interesting.
really interesting because you follow this gent's journey, and then you realize that you become you're really torn, because you feel for them, but the acts they have to achieve in order to survive are really harrowing.
Yeah.
It turns someone that is a protagonist into an antagonist, and then you are
Mm.
torn emotionally as a viewer
Yeah.
to kind of handle how your
Yeah.
emotion is about
Can
that
you root
character.
for this person anymore?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. It's that
Yeah.
jigsaw effect. That's the other side to Saw as well. You're like, he's a good guy, doing bad things, but for good reason. You're like,
Mm.
but where do I sit with that morality?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's another classic kind of thriller theme, isn't it? Sort of morality of individuals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That sounds good. So that's Abruptio from 2023, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll move on to this is last one for all of us, I think. So the last one for me is a film from 2021, which you've probably heard of, called In the Earth. I don't know if you've heard or seen of this one, but this is by a writer-director who I really enjoy called Ben Wheatley, who's a British filmmaker. So have you seen any Ben Wheatley films? You must have seen Sightseers or, you know,
Kill list.
Kill List, yeah, obviously, The Meg 2,
Meg
Mm.
too.
Free Fire. He's done some great, and
Ooh.
Down Terrace as well as his first film. You should really watch that because that's really, really good. Anyway, so Ben Wheatley. So this is interesting, this one. So amid a global pandemic, a scientist and park scout venture into a forest to locate a missing researcher, only to encounter strange rituals, fungal phenomena, and escalating paranoia. As nature itself seems sentient and hostile, their journey becomes a hallucinatory descent into ecological horror, where science and superstition violently collide. That's a fantastic summation of the film, really. It's yeah, basically follows these this sort of researcher played by Joel Fry. And he sort of heads off into the forest. There's obviously, this is kind of COVID, very, sort of, it's made around the time of lockdowns and COVID, or just coming out of, lockdowns and COVID. 2020 was probably May 2020, so around that time. And he's sort of going into the woods, and he sort of gets to this kind of basically kind of ranger cabin or whatever it is, sort of visitor center sort of thing, and then heads out into these woods with this sort of scientist, and he's trying to locate this missing researcher. And they find this kind of tent which seems abandoned. Things are a bit weird in the forest, odd rumors and stuff. But they find this kind of abandoned tent, and it looks like it was sort of a family's tent, but nobody's there, and they wonder what sort of happened to this family. Anyway, they eventually come across Reese Shearsmith again, who turns up in this as this sort of guy who's living out in the forest to all intents and purposes. And there's something not quite right about him. He's a little bit sort of off. And then it kind of takes a hard turn into sort of, kind of folklore, kind of horror, and sort of, ecological horror, and kind of a hallucinatory sort of vibe. And it's I don't want to give too much away, but it's very sort of interesting film. And I think for me, I mean, I'm a big sort of Ben Wheatley fan anyway, and I hadn't seen this, and he does this sort of thing with editing, which I think, have you ever seen A Field in England?
No.
Okay, so that's another Ben Wheatley film, but with Reese Shearsmith in it, and he's just got this amazing kind of, it's almost like kind of, how would you call it? It's kind of a staccato sort of editing sort of thing, almost like montage, but not. It's really quick paced, and he's sort of sort of intercutting different images and overlaying different images, and you can see this in A Field in England as well. And it's definitely around kind of mushroom trip kind of seems to be part of the film that kind of gets this editing style, brings it to the fore. So it's obviously trying to evoke like a sort of trippy situation. But yeah, so they sort of encounter this this kind of guy who's living out, and he turns out to be a bit crazy. And they end up locating the researcher that they're looking for as well, and she's gone a bit sort of native and a bit wild, and there's obviously this kind of folklore stuff that's happening around the forest, and the forest is essentially sort of coming to life in a way, and is trying to sort of keep them in. But it's really, really interesting, really well made. It's quite low key, but there's some some reasonable kind of body horror, some good cuts and some bit of sort of toe chopping and stuff, which is kind of interesting. So you probably like that, Lee. But I'd watch it for the just this kind of, if you've never seen these kind of sections of films that Ben Wheatley does with his editing, you really need to give it a watch, because it kind of, have you ever seen did you watch the last series of Twin Peaks?
Oh my goodness, yes. A while back.
There was an episode in that where it sort of, I vaguely sort of remember this, and I don't know the context of it, but it seemed like a standalone episode, and there were these kind of black kind of worm sort of things moving through, like smoke worms almost, and it's like weird music, and it just creates this kind of visual sort of auditory kind of wave that washes over you, and it goes on for so long that you're kind of thinking, you go from like perplexed to kind of bored, but then you start getting interested again, and you're like, what is going on here? Like, so it just creates this sort of strange kind of audiovisual experience. You know, it's kind of kaleidoscopic in a way. You know, it's really, really effective, and I really love it. So yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of fairly low budget, you know, sort of fairly kind of low key, trippy. You know, obviously sort of it's kind of folk horror. But obviously there's a big kind of ecological thing going on there as well. And you know, people are sort of descending into sort of slightly deranged sort of versions of themselves, you know. So I'd highly recommend it. I think it was loads of fun. Did you see this one,
I
Janine?
love.
You saw this?
No, I actually haven't seen this one, but I was just going to say that I like that Ben Wheatley doesn't restrain himself to one genre. The
He
films
very
we were
much,
listing up earlier, it's
yeah.
it's such a wild mix, and he's got a film coming out this year, Nobody, with Bob Odenkirk,
Mm.
Oh
and
yeah, I heard of
that's
that.
just come out at Overlook Film Festival, which looks great, another thriller type situation. But yeah, I love that he plays with genre so wonderfully, and
Yeah.
it's your credit. Like even Kill List is
Well,
a
Kill It,
masterclass in editing.
classic
It's
genre
so
mash as well,
wonderful.
Kill
Mm.
List.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another for the watch list. Carl, I thought it was long enough at over 1,000 titles. I've added like another six.
Yeah, this one's good. I mean, I sort of appreciate the sort of Britishness of this one as well. You know, it's kind of
Mm.
British
Mm.
cast and you know UK woodland. Really cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely worth a watch. And for me, like Reece Shearsmith is just great. Like in
Mm.
he's obviously a comedic actor, but he's sort of plays a really good weirdo. You know, he
Yeah.
sort of really
Mm.
does that well. So yeah, definitely worth a watch. Yeah, good fun that one.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Okay. Well, my final pick is one from back in 1989. I don't even want to think about how long ago that was. Directed by Steve Miner and written by David Twohy. This is a film called Warlock. Don't know if any of you guys have seen Warlock or not.
No, I
Have you seen
haven't,
Yep,
it,
but
Will?
cult
like the
classic.
title.
It's you will love this film. Well, I pretty much guarantee you. Um, the basic plot is this. A centuries-old warlock escapes execution and travels to modern-day America, pursued by a witch hunter determined to stop him. Seeking a powerful grimoire to rewrite reality, the warlock unleashes supernatural terror, forcing unlikely allies to confront dark magic in a race against time to prevent catastrophic reality-altering consequences.
Nice.
So, what makes this film so brilliant? There's loads of things about this film. First off, you've got Julian Sands as the warlock,
Mhm.
and he is so good in this
Ah,
film.
he's got a
If you
great
remember back
warlock
to our
face.
you remember back to our Monster Squad episode where I
Yeah.
said about how Duncan Regehr was the best on-screen Dracula of all time because he is just such a wonderful bastard in that film. It's the same thing with Julian Sands here. He is
Brilliant.
just such a glorious, unrepentant
Mhm.
bastard
A
throughout this whole
magnificent
film.
bastard.
He is
Yeah.
magnificent. I mean, he does such awful things, but you're kind of rooting for him the whole time. I mean, he like bites a guy's tongue out, chops a
Mhm.
guy's fingers off. He like skins a kid and boils down his fat to make a potion so that he can fly. He curses the heroine so she ages like 20 years a day. He like possesses a psychic like so that he can talk to Satan, who is his father, and then he kind of plucks out her eyes and uses them as a compass to find what he's looking for. And he's just so wonderfully evil throughout the whole movie. It's almost like a pantomime villain, but he's wonderful. And then you've got
Mm.
Richard E. Grant as the Scottish witch hunter, Giles
Nice.
Redfern, who comes through forged through time like a reverse Terminator to
So good.
to try and get this guy. And Laurie Singer is just like the typical old American girl who's trying to stop them. And it's just so much fun. It's just a really good, fun movie. Yeah, it's got some gruesome moments, but there's nothing like too bad in it. And it's just like a road movie romp with like this like medieval Scottish witch hunter and this like valley girl just like racing across America trying to track down the pages of this holy book before the warlock does. And there's just like brilliant lore in there as well. There's just like loads of like really cool elements. I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's just really, really good fun. And
Nice.
I defy anyone to watch any horror fan to watch this film and not enjoy it because it's just brilliant. I mean, you've seen it, Gene. What do you think?
I have, and it's quite a first time watch, I have to say. And you
Mm,
know, for films of that era, a lot of them don't stand the test of time. But if you go in knowing the cheesiness, especially the
yes.
later 80s aren't too bad,
Mm,
and you're just going to have a whale of a time with this. Go in with no
yeah.
expectation,
Yep.
and it's a blast. And the casting here is insane. Those
Yeah.
two leads and the way they play off of each other,
Yeah.
you couldn't pick a more dynamic pair of leads to
Yep.
take on a film of this magnitude. And if you enjoy Warlock, you'll be pleased to know it's part of a trilogy,
Yep.
but Julian Sands is in the second one
Yep.
only. So if you like his performance in this, Warlock 2, the second one is
Mm.
the Armageddon, I think it is.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
That's right.
definitely one to watch as well. If your thirst isn't already quenched with one, you've got another one.
The sequel is quite a bit darker, if I remember
Yeah.
rightly. You know, it's a lot
Yeah.
more. You get a lot more. I haven't seen the third one. Is it?
I haven't either. I gave up when I
Yeah.
heard he left the role. I was
Yeah.
kind of
Same
like,
with
it
me.
was
Same with
it
me.
was like Wishmaster. I loved Andrew Divoff in Wishmaster, and I watched all four, but it's never the same when someone
Yeah.
else fills those boots once you've got someone perfect for that role.
Yeah.
And
Same with
of which
Pinhead,
Julian
isn't it?
Sands
It's
is
just.
perfect here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was absolutely great. But Will, I pretty much guarantee you will love this film.
Nice. I'll have to seek this one out.
I'm
Sounds like
throwing it
fun.
out there. Yep.
And where's this available, Lee? Is this on any streaming?
I'm trying to think where I saw it now. I can't remember because I mean I saw it when it first came out, like on VHS video way back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen it for a long minute. But if you
It
can
looks like
find
you
it,
can
if
get it
you
on
can track
DVD
it down
somewhere.
somewhere,
Yeah.
it's worth a watch. It's brilliant, and it's just a great fun film. And like I said, the sequel is worth a watch as well. If you enjoyed the first one, it is a lot meaner. It's a lot darker. The sequel, there's no Richard E. Grant in it, sadly, but Julian Sands is just as good. And his entrance, actually, his entrance to the film in the sequel is mind blowing. It's amazing.
It's the
You
best
have to.
set piece in the film for me. It
Yeah,
really sets the
yeah,
tone wonderfully, but almost too well because it
mm,
afterwards this kind of fails to reach that level. But it
yeah.
is worth a watch.
It is great. His entrance in that second movie is just it left my jaw on the floor. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, the first one, gloriously fun. It's really camp in some places. But yeah, it's just brilliant. I highly recommend it.
Fantastic. Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds like something I could watch there, Lee.
Yeah, I think you love it. And obviously much love goes out to the late great Julian Sands. You know, great in everything he was in, bless him.
Yeah. Super. Okay, well that's Warlock. So Janine, what's your last one?
And I feel like I've got some pressure to top it off well, but here we go. The final film is a 2024 release. It's actually a short film called Run for Your Life. And of course, I can't hear that without singing Iron Maiden, but it's directed by Liam Banks. And it's a film that I discovered as I am going to be covering Gasp Film Festival in Manchester in June. And this was part of their scheduling for last year's film festival. So as part of prep, I thought I'd look up some of the ones that were shown. It's free on YouTube and with a runtime of 24 minutes. And the synopsis is stumbling upon a clearing adorned with strange symbols and bells in the canopy, Eleanor finds herself in the middle of a terrifying ritual. The cult of Ormond are desperately trying to summon their god from beneath the earth, and Eleanor might be the sacrifice they need.
Ooh.
This is ominous as hell from the synopsis, but it is a rip ride of a film. As I say, it's only about 24 minutes. And it starts almost like a vlogger. So Eleanor is, she goes solo to this murder site, and this ritualistic murder was quite famous. The initial open, you see the murder of the victims on the site, and then a year later, you see her almost in a vlogger style with her phone, recording herself arriving. And kind of documenting the site like a lot of true crime kind of podcasters and addicts and vloggers kind of do. She's on her own. And then you realize as she's describing some of the things that happened that you have been witness to in an earlier scene, you realize there's really cool little details. There's no bird noise in a heavily dense forest. There's there's no noise around her at all. And where she's moving around and she realizes she hears like a twig snap and she turns and she's like, actually, I've just picked up there's no noise. Then she realizes there's markings and effectively there are figures in the wood that attack her. And this short goes places you do not expect. And it likened the way I watched it and what I enjoyed most about it. It reminds me so much of Sam Raimi in terms of the gore, the intensity of the camera shots. As I say, it starts very much in a kind of found footage style with one person and their camera phone effectively, but then it pans out into wider shots, so you're removed from that intimacy into a proper set piece. And there is some great costume design here. The practical effects are off the charts, and yeah, it's one for those who love films that start in a realistic way and turn to occult madness very quickly. It's almost like it grabs you by the shirt collar and does not let you go for 24 minutes. And then as soon as you know it's over, the credits are rolling and you need a cigarette. You need to go, what the hell just happened to me? It's wonderful. And as I say, I haven't seen or heard anyone talk about this. It's free to watch on YouTube. I don't want to ruin anything about the way it goes and how it plays out. But this actress, and I wish I'd made a note of this before the podcast, the lead in this is fantastic. She has raw final girl energy, and nice. I really want to check her out and see what else she's in. I hope she's in the genre and she stays in the genre. She lets out this guttural scream towards the end and it rattles your cage, and she's marvelous. So yeah, do check that one out. That's her. Yes. She is phenomenal. And as I say, it's not a face that I recognize for much, but it's pure independent filmmaking, but it's done so well.
Sounds amazing. Yeah,
it's wonderful, and it keeps to its time. The pacing on it is well done. The structure of the story is great. It starts as one thing and then it slowly evolves, and then what you think is the threat is ultimately just foreplay. It's really not what you think it is. And yeah, she goes ham on these characters as well. She goes from victim to badass very quickly. Brilliant. She's got that Laurie Strode energy without messing around. Great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Nice. So yeah, that was my strong independent finish. I wouldn't be myself, Graeae Horror, if I didn't finish with an indie. So
absolutely,
no.
Yeah,
amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to check that one out. That sounds really good.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay.
Better Scream than Samara Weaving, do you think?
Oh God, yeah. She has some Samara Weaving energy, but I think she's more. How do I put this? Samara Weaving, she's great. She's really, really great, and I'd be losing a lot of people if I said she wasn't, because she is. But I think she's too polished sometimes in the performance, and this feels more raw, because I think it's somebody that we don't necessarily recognize. I think that's probably what it is. By now, we've all seen Ready or Not. We've seen her in, God, she was in the Evil Dead TV series as well. She was in the second season of that. So by the time she turns up in certain things, you recognize a certain caliber of performance, whereas somebody unknown in an indie, you're like, okay, so where is this going to go? So when they really shine at that level, you're like, okay, now we're talking. Awesome. We've got a new final girl. Let's go. Yeah, she's wonderful. And I love the setting. You can't go wrong with a cult in the woods. Again, it's that kind of claustrophobic thing. You're on your own, you're remote. The fact she didn't take anyone with her instantly sets her up to fail. So that's already working against her. And she's it's quite something.
Brilliant.
Nice. Fantastic. Okay, well there we go. So that's 5 from each of us, isn't it? Hidden horror gems. So should we just run through quickly before we sign off with what we chose?
Could do, yeah, absolutely. I was going to say as well, was there any did anyone have any near misses that almost made the list but didn't quite get there?
No, not really for me. I was sort of pretty much all there. What about you guys?
Yeah, I was torn whether or not to put the Poughkeepsie tapes on there.
Oh yeah.
So I very nearly put the Poughkeepsie tapes on there. And I watched a film recently called Landmine Goes Click, and I was quite tempted to put that on there as well. That's a nasty film.
That is a nasty film. I don't think that's Will friendly.
That's definitely not Will friendly, but
Thank you for alerting me to that, Janine. I appreciate
it's
that.
Yeah, I just check it. I got a vibe.
it's I was amazed at how dark that film got. It was not what I was expecting at all.
Mm.
But if you want something very dark, Landmine Goes Click and Poughkeepsie Tapes is a masterpiece as well. I highly recommend that. If you haven't seen it, it's very good.
Yeah.
For me, it's really hard because of how much I consume in terms of what I review, and so much of it isn't yet on general release. It hasn't been picked up for distribution. There are films, however, that are coming out that are being distributed from this month that I can talk about. So there's a wonderful film called Frankie Maniac Woman that is a woman based in LA who's a struggling musician, and she is suffering with body dysmorphia as well, which is a current theme in a lot of recent horrors. And she decides to go on a murderous rampage. She snaps and she goes full Texas Chainsaw Massacre on anyone in her path. And it is very reminiscent of that in terms of the way it's shot, stylistically, the music in it. There's so many, everyone uses the term needle drops, but there really are some wonderful pieces of music in this film. And it's brutal. It's just hitting cinematic release in the US. So I'm hoping for a UK release very soon. It's just done. It did Fright Fest, Grimfest last year. So I'm hoping we'll all be able to get our paws on that because that's really good. In terms of films that have been out already, again, I mentioned I'm into found footage. So The Taking of Deborah Logan is a firm favourite for me because it's found footage, it's documentary, but then it plays really wonderfully in family dynamics because it's a documentary crew of student filmmakers who are studying mental illness and physical illness, and they find a woman who is a home carer for her mother who's suffering with dementia. So they go with the premise of filming that dynamic and how she's coping with that situation and watching her mother, but actually it unfolds that her condition isn't necessarily all medical. She's actually possessed as well. So you have this moment of going, what is this that's actually her condition and how much of this is demonic possession? And it's really famous for one clip and one little snippet that was turned into a gif and a meme, which is the old lady in a cave and her head she's basically like a snake and she's eating the head of a child and slowly eating this child, and her mouth is all fully stretched over. That's the only sort of thing I saw about this film before watching it. I didn't know anything about it. And it's truly genre bending. It plays on so many different themes and it's great. It's a hard watch, especially for those who've experienced something similar, possession or otherwise, in their family. But yeah, it's well worth it.
Okay, fabulous stuff. So let's do a quick rundown before we sign off. So the 5 films that I chose were The Cottage from 2008. Then I spoke about The Curse of the Demon or Night of the Demon from 1957. And then it was Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny and Girly or just Girly from 1970. Bonkers. Barbarian Sound Studio from 2012. And then In the Earth from 2021. Lee, what was your list?
So my list started off with 2009's The Collector. Then we had 2013's Afflicted, followed by Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon from 2006. Then we had The Hills Run Red from 2009. And I finished up with a classic, Warlock from 1989.
Nice.
Okay.
And Janine?
So my list is obscure as they come. So the first was Happiness of the Katakuris from 2001 from director Takeshi Miike. I then moved to 2014's Clown, directed by John Watts. Then we had 2024's Hellhole, directed by John Adams and Toby Poser. Then we had the puppet horror thriller Abruptio from 2023, directed by Evan Marlowe. And finishing up with indie short Run for Your Life from 2024, directed by Liam Banks.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Okay, well, I think there's plenty for people to be getting their teeth into there. With
I do have a question for everybody. If you could
Oh,
just
yeah.
nominate one off of your list for people to watch, what would it be?
Ooh, interesting. You guys go first. I need to think.
Yes, some bit I need to. Mine, I will probably go with, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon for my one.
Janine, what would you say?
See, my heart is telling me Happiness of the Catacuries, but I rave about it so much. I'm going to go with the indie, Run for Your Life. It was wild, it's gory, and you don't see the end coming. And it's only 24 minutes, so you can watch it on your lunch break.
Brilliant.
Nice. I'd probably go with, just because it's so different, Mumsy, Nanny, Sunny and Girly. It's not particularly horrifying, but it's, yeah, completely unlike anything I've really ever seen before tonally. So, yeah, I'd probably go with that one.
I have a question as well then to follow up on that, because I always finish with a question that's wild. If your selected film, you're going to pair it in a double feature, what's the feature you'd pair that with?
Oh, wow.
You can go first on that one. I need some time to think.
I can't.
See, mine is easy. Mine's Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, okay.
That's a perfect. I'd have Run for Your Life as the open, and then Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. I'd have to think about that. I can't pull anything off the top of my head that's yeah.
I'll give you some breathing space because I figured mine out. Mine's pretty obvious. I would go Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, and Scream.
Yeah, the way forward. I might have to watch that at home now. That's it. I'm going to do that double feature over the weekend.
Brilliant.
I tell you what we'll do. How about this? Will you guys go away and watch this film, and then you can come back and tell me what you think it should be paired with, because I'm sort of really struggling.
It sounds like it would go well with Carry On Screaming, to be fair.
It probably would, Lee. Probably would. Or some sort of
my inclination from the description and the way you were talking about it is Society, because my heart and my head are in a dark space always.
Right.
So it's light-hearted. So I would almost go with Carry On Screaming and then this film and then straight into Society.
I think
send them home happy.
I mean, I would probably pair it with something from, Hammer Studio. I mean, I probably, it has more of that sort of feel than, it's than a Carry On, but yeah, somewhere between the two. I don't know. I don't know. My knowledge isn't good enough for that to pull that out of the hat straight away.
It's on my watch list though, so I will definitely be coming back. I'm sure I can find something.
Well,
to
you
pair
can
it
come
with.
back on and tell us what you think of it. I'd be interested.
That
to
would
hear
be
your
wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we'll do another.
This has been wild and honestly completely such a joy. So thank you both so much for allowing me on. And thanks to Screams by the Sea for introducing us.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the team at Screams and Raddy and Co, because they're a wonderful festival. If ever you guys are in Bournemouth, anyone who's watching and listening, then get down there. They have a summer one day, or I think coming up this summer, and then they've got obviously their festival next March.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, we'll be there again, no doubt.
Well, I mean, I think
I'm going to be there too.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Well, we'll see you there. Yeah, brilliant. Well, I mean, thanks so much, Janine, for coming on. It was lovely to sort of meet you in person, obviously, at Screams by the Sea, but it's fantastic to sort of have you on and listen to you talk about, the genre and different horror films that you enjoy. So kind of knowledgeable and so passionate about the genre. It's fantastic to have you on. So we'll definitely have to have you back, and we'll think of some of that sort of framing that we can use as something else to discuss maybe with you or something like that. So we'll do that, won't we, Lee, at some point?
Absolutely. Yep. 100%.
But
thank you both so much. It's been a joy, and honestly, anytime, just let me know. I'll jump at the chance.
Can you? Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you and what the sorts of things that you're doing?
So I am, for spelling it, it's Graeae Horror, Graeae Horror. I am on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Threads is apparently still a thing. I'm on there. I also do written reviews across IMDb, Letterboxd, etc. I will drop these guys a link tree, so hopefully that will go out on all the social channels so you can find me easier. And in terms of in person, if anyone is floating around the country, particularly in Manchester for the next 2 months, I will be at Interference Film Festival in Manchester, which doing some retrospective, much down the gorier end of the horror spectrum. I know they're showing Tokyo Gore Police as a prime example, and some Trauma Classics too. That will be the final weekend of May. And then the last weekend of June, I will be at Gasp, which is, again, in Manchester, 3-day event. And that is LGBTQIA plus and non-binary horror directors, including some wonderful animation. So if anyone's around the Manchester area and comes to fancy some film waffle in person, I'll be there.
Fantastic stuff.
Fantastic, yeah.
And so we're back to our normal programming, aren't we, Lee, after this?
So next episode, we are kicking off season 4, and the first movie / script combo we're going to be looking at is The Mist. Stephen King's The Mist, written and directed by Frank Darabont, who is, as I'm sure you all know, probably my favorite screenwriter of all time. So I am having an absolute blast going through this screenplay, and it's going to be a good one. I can tell you now, it's going to be a good one. Not that I'm biased or anything.
Wow, looking forward to that.
Have you seen The Mist yet, Will?
No, not yet, but I'm looking forward to watching it. You know me. I love a Darabont
Record your
film.
reaction at the end. Please record your reaction to that final scene. I want a reaction video because nothing's prepares you.
Yep.
I'll see if I can muster a reaction video for you, Janine. I can't promise.
We could make a living just off of Will reaction videos if we.
My reactions are generally fairly muted, I have to say.
I want to sit you down and make you watch the Terrifier trilogy and just like have the camera on your face the entire time.
Yeah.
I think that would just put us up in the millions, I think.
Yeah. Okay then, guys. Well, that's it. So I think the only thing left to say is do take care.
Keep on writing those scares.